4, 3, 2, and 1. We are live. What is up, ATG fam? Welcome back to the table. Missed you guys. It's only been a couple weeks, but as always, guys, thank you for subscribing. Thank you for liking, sharing our videos. Doing the intro by myself is always so crazy, you know? I hate talking into a camera, but as soon as I'm locked in conversation, it's good to go. We're at episode 62. We have a very special guest. He's a good friend of mine. He actually had me as a guest on his podcast first. You guys might know him from OnlyKings podcast. Let's see, he's even getting into the stand-up world. We might want to touch on that a little bit. Comic book fanatic, DC, Marvel. We'll find out which is his favorite here in a little bit. But let's waste no further time. Noah Vargas, let's go, baby.
Thank you for having me. It's fun to be here.
Let's go.
Oh, that's so funny.
I accidentally hit this by accident at first. I'm still memorizing the buttons, so bear with me.
That's funny.
I'm not hating on Noah. I love this guy, dude.
That's funny.
Hey, man. So welcome to the table, man. It's been a while. I know I made you put those crazy glasses on. It's the ATG aesthetic, man. But
it's cool to be here, dude. Thank you for having me. I like your new setup. I like
Thanks,
it.
man.
Looks good on camera. Looks good in person. It's a good setup.
I appreciate it, man. Glad to have you at the table. You know, it's just always good hanging out with friends, man. Like, whenever I have homies on like you, podcasts are way more chiller, way less stressful. You just go into it, have a good time. And that's just what we do, man.
It's a lot of fun.
So I love your ATG glasses choice, by the way, man. I'm rolling with the Peso Pluma, and you got the Cyclops ones going on. So shout out, let's shout out.
That's funny.
Nah, man. So thank you for being a guest, dude. What to talk about, man? So we did a podcast like maybe back in March, about 3 months ago or so. And, you know, I told you, man, as soon as I get set up in the new studio, I'm going to have you on. And, you know, it took a little time. You know, you had a little surgery. We've been super busy, man. But I couldn't forget you, man. So thank you for saying yes, man, and kicking it with the boy.
Oh, yeah, dude. Cheers. Cheers. This is a great time.
Yeah. That's how I want my guests to feel, man. Just feel comfortable. Like you said, you're part of the hang now. You heard about the good news?
I'll pick that up later.
That was the first one I didn't catch all night. This guy was, I was like, nah, man. So happy Friday, man. How have you been, Noah?
I've been good. I've been busy. It's funny. On my Facebook memories today is actually the 3-year anniversary of me, like, putting it out onto Facebook that I'm going to start a podcast, that it's going to be called OnlyKings, and 3 years has flown by. Absolutely fucking flown by. It's a blast. Life is good, like we were talking about a little bit earlier. Since pretty much the beginning of August, I've been doing 3 a week. There was 1 or 2 weeks in the middle where I was doing 4 episodes, but this is really the first week that I only did 2. And I guess
talk about the grind, man.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess technically 3 if you count. Because I did.
And we're normal people. We don't podcast full time like you celebrities. Like, you know, we have real jobs.
Not yet, right? But yeah, I did a guest spot on a podcast on this past Sunday. Or no, I'm sorry. This past Sunday. So this past Sunday, so I did 4 this week.
That's sick, dude. It's been a slow week. Actually, I did 4.
Yeah, I did. Last Sunday, I did a podcast from like 10 to 1. And then that evening, I went to, I've already announced it by now, I went to Legion Iron and we did a podcast in person on mine, and that was pretty awesome.
Shout out to Legion Iron.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite podcasts of the year for sure.
That's sick, dude. And you guys did it at the gym.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we did it in the Octagon. In the new Octagon they have
jealous.
In the back corner of the gym. It was sick. And then on Wednesday night, I did a podcast for mine again. It's going to drop probably in a week or so from now. And then now I'm here. So 4. Yeah.
Damn, dude.
4. And then, since the beginning of August, it's been like 3 or 4 a week. It's been cool. It's a lot of work. I found a AI program that now edits my podcast for me. So, like, a 3-hour podcast would take me.
So it's like having a team of 10 humans on your side.
Well, for real, because what it does everything that I'm not gonna get into like the weeds of how to edit. But
yeah, our audience, they probably don't know, but
yeah, it's very easy to do, but it's monotonous and it takes a while. So for a 3-hour podcast, it edits that in 45 seconds.
That's sick.
Just like that, and it's done. So I can literally I can set the program to edit. I can go make my dinner, and then it's already done by the time that I hit the kitchen. So then I come back and I keep doing the rest of my work. So
what is it? Because editing can go so many ways. Like when you're saying it automatically edits, what is it cutting out? Like what is it?
So it's not cutting anything. So what it's doing
is it adding your intro? It's adding all the stuff that you already have programmed to kind of put.
So what it's doing is I give it because
I don't want your own AI censoring you. That's just all I'm trying to make sure.
Oh yeah, no.
It's like, hey, that was a touchy subject. I cut that part out.
No, yeah, it's what it does is, and you can do this manually, which is what I've been doing for the last 2.5 years.
Yeah.
But I just don't have the time now that this is when you came on, right?
Yeah.
We did a live episode.
Right.
So when I started doing that, I was like, fuck, okay, I've paid $300 for this piece of equipment that helps me do it live. I don't want to go back to editing. Fuck this. So now that, I've told you before, I can't do the live episodes recently because my buddy's been busy.
Right.
I need this program out of my own laziness. Because I also don't have the time to fucking stay up an extra 2.5 hours or set aside an extra 2.5 hours to do it. So basically what it's doing is you have a timeline on Premiere Pro, the editing software, and when you get the camera footage lined up with the studio audio and everything's in sync and all that, what you would spend time doing is you isolate whatever footage. So if I have for your episode, right? Let's say we did pre-recorded. So on the timeline, it goes 1 to 5 on video 1, video 2, video 3, audio 1, audio 2, whatever, right? So you can add infinite tables or whatever. But so for this one, right? So you have video 1 would be me, video 2 is you, audio 1 is me, video 2 or audio 2 is you, right? So as you are going through, everything's lined up in editing, you isolate and you see the waveform where the audio spikes. And
then it syncs it with the video right on the mark.
So it's already, so you have to do that yourself. You still have to do that yourself, right? You still have to do that properly. But if you, it's very easy to do. But once you get that done, as you're reading it and you're seeing the spikes, you isolate you do. It's called source in to out. So in here, out here, you've isolated where I'm speaking, for instance, right? So you isolate that, and then on your video, you put a cut at the beginning and a cut at the end. You right-click it and you press disable, because the way it reads is on the stack, right? Whatever's on the top is what is going to show on the video. But if you disable it, it shows the next thing under. Does that make sense? So it'll show my video because I'm talking.
Right.
But if your audio is spiking, I don't touch it. Go back to my social. So you're literally doing out and cut, out and cut.
How much time do you think that saves you? I'm just going to make sure we're good.
Yeah, so
Since my intern's always slacking.
Yeah, it cuts an average of hour and a half to 2 hours out of my life. But if you're doing...
Hey, dude, add all that up with how many podcasts you're doing?
Yeah, so if I'm doing 3 pods a week, that's 6 to 7, maybe 8 hours.
That's a full work day.
Right, exactly. And it's a full work day that you're putting on top of my already 50 hours of work schedule that I work for my day job.
Yeah.
And then I'm a human, right? So I still have to do all my other stuff that requires me being alive, like running errands, making food, going to the gym, having some kind of a social life. You know,
Throwing in fat dips.
Yeah, no, for real. So then it's okay, yeah, I'm going to spend $30 a month for this AI to do it for me.
Right.
And it's helped out immensely.
Dude, that's sick.
Yeah, and the guests have been great. Episodes have been awesome. It's been
what episode are you on now, dude? Because I know we started almost around the same time. Yeah, in 2019, spring 2019 maybe.
So I started October of 2020. Well, I guess I announced in September of 2020.
Oh, okay.
But I started first episode published October of 2020. Monday is going to be episode 120.
That's
and then
sick, dude.
I just filmed 121 on Wednesday.
Dude, so you already laughed ATG, bro. You've been grinding, man.
Nobody's laughing.
You've been grinding, man.
nobody's lapping anybody.
Hey, but I know you power lifters, you bodybuilders like those reps, dude. So you just can't stop once you get going.
It's a lot of fun, dude. I mean,
No, dude, I'm with you, dude. It's a blast.
Yeah, and
like, it's not work when you're chatting and hanging out with people. To me, I mean, in my opinion.
For the most part. There's a few conversations where they can become work, or it's you have to wordplay yourself around to get your point across, or to really, like, you know, to articulate the debate.
That's why you got to ask who you're voting for first sentence.
Who are you voting for?
No, I'm just kidding.
Who did you vote for?
So you vaxxer or non-vaxxer, that gets the pot.
Yeah, and here's why you're wrong. No, but it's yeah, I was telling my buddies this, and then it actually came up this last Wednesday when we were having a podcast, and you know, at the end of the day, like, if you really want to simplify what a podcast is from the creator's perspective, at least from my perspective, right? If I'm booking somebody for a podcast, whether I'm having them on because I've known them for 10 years and we're going to shoot shit and drink whiskey for 4 hours, or it's a brand new person and we're just going to have a conversation about, like, what their background is, what their specialty is, whatever the fuck they do with their lives, right? At the end of the day, somebody just agreed to come hang out for 1 to 3 hours, or possibly 4, right? So that's a pretty cool proposition.
For sure.
Right? Especially today when everyone, it's, at least on the surface, it feels like nobody has enough time. Everyone's too busy. Our attention span is absolutely shot to shit.
Yeah.
Right? And that's what's really helping me with doing podcast, or like that's what's helping my life. Doing podcasting so much is it's a constant test of my of my
listening, responding skills.
Yes, but also my attention span. Because even if, like, how I put this, like, I've yet to have somebody on that fits this category, but not my biggest fear, but like something that I'm confident in now is that even if I have somebody on and I don't give a fuck what they're talking about, as long as they have the enthusiasm of what they do, that's going to be sick, right?
Right.
And even if they don't sound as enthused, or if maybe they're nervous, or maybe they're just uneasy, like, oh, I don't want to say the wrong thing. I think it's on the internet. I'm gonna, you know what I mean? I can look at that one of two ways, right? I can either just completely tune out in the episode as soon as I can, get us the fuck out of here, whatever. Which is, excuse me, was for all intents and purposes is what, you know, modern society has now trained us to be. These anxiety-ridden, non-confrontational, just, like, get me in the most comfortable situation possible.
Yeah, if something's not exactly in your bubble or in your thing, then you shut it out.
Exactly, right. So I can either look at it like that, and obviously this applies to you too, or you can look at it and you can say, all right, this person is nervous.
Right.
This person maybe doesn't know the full scope of what they're talking about.
Hey, it happens.
Yeah, let's say they're, you know, and it's not a bad thing, but it's like not everyone's good on camera. And I'm not saying I'm good on camera. I just don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
I don't, like, and maybe that's the positive of podcasting is you don't, like, I mean, obviously there are podcasters that perform, right? That, like, perform, like, play a character on a podcast.
Oh, yeah, dude, 100%.
And if that's your thing, awesome. And there's a lot of podcasters, like we were talking about Tim Dillon earlier, he's great at that. Yeah. Like, he's Tim Dillon until he's not. And he turns on this, like, characterized version of him.
Yeah, I mean, you heard him earlier, you're like, wait, that's Tim Dillon?
Yeah, this caricature of himself, and it's fucking hilarious. But my point is, you know, you can see your guest, and if they're clearly showing signs of that anxiety, you can now say, okay, now it's a challenge. Yeah. Right? Now, me as a host, I need to do everything.
You got to go in there with a life jacket and kind of bring them back to a comfortable center.
Exactly. Now you can say, okay, well, what questions can I ask? How is my delivery? Even like my body language. Right? Like, what can I do to make this the most comfortable experience possible for the guests? Right. Yeah. And then it's funny. It's some psychological trick, and I forget what the fuck it's called, but it's, if you just stay silent, if the person really is nervous about the situation or whatever's going on, if they have any type of nervousness, and they tend to just fill it in. They keep talking to fill the space, right? And I'm sure there's 1,000 different ways you can take that. I'm nowhere near educated enough to really break that apart and really study that, but that's what,
like, with just like sub words, like just filler words.
Yeah, well, not even.
No, or they just start rambling on weird things that have no context.
They're filling it with ideas.
Their brain, this thing I know, right? And they'll just like start.
Yes, their brain is trying to figure out how to keep avoiding an awkward void, and then they're trying to figure out like, how do I keep this situation moving forward, right?
Be normal.
Yeah, it's like, don't be afraid. But if you let people do that, generally speaking, if you let people do that long enough, their brain finds its way back on track and they end up finishing their point. And then when they do that, they now feel more comfortable because they've completed a task on their own in the most uncomfortable environment they've been in all day.
Yeah.
Right? They've been in a conversation that's on camera, at least on my podcast, and obviously on yours. We have headphones so you can hear your own voice.
Right.
They have now stepped into a space where they feel the most foreign, even though they've been invited, they've been booked, they've been let in the door, they've been given a drink, they've been given a seat. You know what I mean?
Well, dude, they're literally like putting their image in your hands.
Right, exactly. So
like, because there's so many got you podcasts nowadays that it like leaves people kind of in fear of like, is this person gonna throw me some weird question that I like don't know and I have to answer?
That's a good point. Okay, so that's actually a really good point. And
it's good to let your guests know. I mean, depending on what route you want to go in this world.
Yeah.
Like, I have your best interest. My goal is to make you look just as good as me, and we both win this together. We're in this race together.
Exactly. And so to close out my point,
we're in this together, baby.
You're allowing them to complete something on their own in a very foreign environment, right? So that's a big confidence boost for them. They get more loose and they get more cool with the situation. They've built some kind of trust with you that, again, you're not gonna get them in a gotcha situation, that they're not going to get made a fool of, or they're not going to be put in a awkward situations where they have to defend themselves beyond what they're comfortable. And you're right. So there's a lot of podcasts, and the one that comes to mind is Fresh and Fit. It's weird, that podcast, because the two hosts, it's Myron and I forget who the other guy's name is.
Is that podcast where they'll get like a room full of like 12 girls and be like, I'm going to show you guys why.
In Miami. It's in Miami. It's like an all like the room's mostly blacked out. They have a giant table in the middle, and like the two guys that run that podcast or host it rather. They have a whole team of producers.
It's like a panel.
Yeah, it's a panel.
It's like a panel style podcast.
Yes. So those two guys they're very smart. Like, they're obviously smart businessmen. They're smart individuals. They're well articulated. Myron more so than his co-host. Maybe it's because he speaks more. I've been meaning to watch an episode of the Iced Coffee Hour because they had both of them on. And it's like 3 hours long, so I really want to get into that. Like, eventually I want to watch that episode. But despite how well articulated, well thought out, and how smart those two men are, I have a real issue with bringing on a bunch of OnlyFans girls and having them be the bastion of femininity. I have a real issue with that, right? Because it's like, these are not, like, okay, despite how gorgeous they are.
It's like basically like a debate.
Well, it's
like, okay, but it's like, us two guys are going to show you girls.
Well, that's the farce.
Your place, kind of.
Yeah, that's the farce.
And it's kind of similar to like how when guys go to like college campuses and they're like, I schooled this college kid.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? It's like, to their, it doesn't make anyone look good but themselves in a way.
Precisely. And that's the farce. It's they display it as a debate, but they bring people on that can't hold their own in a basic conversation, which is unfortunate, right? And then, now, again, they're smart businessmen, because that makes for really good clips. That makes for really good...
Well, dude, imagine, like, you have all week preparing these questions, and, like, you're just... Some girl's just like, hey, I'm going to go with Stephanie to this guy's house. He's got a lot of views.
And I want to...
And she just sits down not knowing what the hell.
And again, they're hot. They're young. They want to promote their OnlyFans. They're making their money.
So
whatever.
They're just like, I'm going to take the risk.
Right, exactly. Fair enough. But then they have somebody on, like Michaela Peterson, right? She's Jordan Peterson's daughter. They have her on. It's just literally just them and her. And they have a great conversation. There's no bashing going on. There's no...
so they go both ways. They're kind of like playing...
Well, and the difference that I say... The reason I bring her up, and the difference in that is Michaela is gorgeous. I don't know if you've ever seen her before.
I don't think I have.
Yes.
I didn't know Jordan Peterson's Jordan Peterson's daughter's doing podcasts.
She has a really big podcast. Yeah, she's very well spoken, well articulated.
What's her name? Michaela Peterson.
Yeah, Michaela Peterson. Absolutely stunning woman.
Unmarried, guys.
Absolutely. No, she's married. Yeah. Yeah, she's married.
To another Peterson? I'm just kidding.
Yeah, she's...
No, when you got a name like that, I guess you
got to keep your father's name,
Yeah.
right? If he's Jordan fucking Peterson. The absolutely beautiful woman, but she's also well-educated.
Yeah.
And very smart.
So these guys know, like, okay, we can't, throw these questions
They don't
out.
even try to bully her because they know that she's going to smack him.
Right.
Or she's going to smack them down.
Right.
So that's my issue with that type of shit. And I don't know, man. Like... There's obviously a lot to make fun of with, like, the hypersexualized culture of our society. There's a lot to make fun of with OnlyFans. I mean, my fucking podcast is called OnlyKings. Like, come on now. There's a lot to make fun of.
It's pretty clever, actually.
There's a lot to poke at, right? But at the end of the day, you can do that all you want, but making fun of it and poking...
Hey, even girls can be OnlyKings. You guys don't know that.
I've had a lot of female guests. Poking fun at it, making jokes, whatever, and doing that to their face, that's one thing, right? Make fun of my shit to my face, too. Who gives a fuck?
Right.
Take a joke. But it's another thing to absolutely fucking, like, verbally berate them and then clip it. You get millions of views. Now you build up your argument for sponsorships and for this is how many views we get, this is how viral we go. And it's one way to do it, but, and again, this is coming from a guy that just barely cracked 900 followers on Instagram for the pod, and, like, I don't know, like I'm barely averaging triple digits for the views on my episodes. So like I don't have a lot of views myself. I don't have a lot of like clout, but that's just.
Well, dude, you're staying true to like your code. You have your own little code, and you kind of know your moral ground on where you want to stand.
Well, because that's the thing. It's like I've had a couple of girls with an OnlyFans on my podcast. Was that the central topic of the episode? No. Did it come up? Yes, of course it did. Of course I have my morals and my ethics. Right. But I'm not married to my ideas.
Right.
I want to be proven wrong.
That's a very good trait to have. Because some people are all in no matter what.
Yeah,
even if they accept defeat in their head, they're gonna die on that.
Yeah. There's a lot of people choose some hills.
And that's a growing pain that everyone has to deal with at one point or another. Eventually, you're gonna meet someone that actually is smarter than you. Believe it or not, there's people out there that are smarter than you.
Yeah.
And sometimes they'll hit you with a thought idea, and you're like, and you have to like be vulnerable and be humiliated for a little bit. You know what I mean?
And I was just about to say, like, I never want to be this. Everyone says this. It's every fucking motivational quote. But like, I have zero interest in being the smartest person in the room. You know what I mean? Like if for whatever reason I am the smartest person in the room on a certain subject, I want to be there to pass on my knowledge.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I went on a podcast.
That's a good way to look at it. Like instead of being like, oh, I'm bored. I'm like, I need to get out of here. I'm too good for these people. Or you know what I mean?
No,
Some people are like, I'm above these people. They don't need my time. But instead, you're looking at it a way of like, I can like maybe, introduce some ideas to these people that they might be able to digest and. Carry on with your life.
I'd prefer that, right? And like for instance, I just went on, like I was telling you about, I went on a podcast that's like literally just starting. It just started this week. It's called the 505 Connection. Very nice guy who runs it. Pierce.
What's his name?
Pierce.
Okay.
Pierce, very nice guy. In the
505 Connection, is he on YouTube?
Yeah, he's on YouTube.
Check it out. Check it out, guys.
Instagram page. Real nice guy. Excuse me. He, the first, I was happy to do it. The first hour and a half of that podcast was just him asking me questions of how to run a podcast.
Yeah.
And fair enough.
Yeah.
Right?
So it was just all like it was just like him just talking to you as a like
beginner podcaster where it's like, how do you...
And who knows? I mean, dude, honestly, a lot of people in this space or in this city want to just know where do you even start?
Yeah, because I made a lot of mistakes when I first started.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Dude,
everyone will. Like, that's the whole point of starting, right? Is you're gonna like trip and fall, but just keep going. Just keep going and learn. Yeah. And one thing that I brought up was like, what's so unique about podcasting is it's such an abstract thing, but the one thing about it that is objectively true is there are equipment that work better than others.
Yeah.
There just is, right? And so with podcasts being the way they are now, you can look at your favorite podcaster and literally, like, it's just like with Rogan, right? You can literally look up on Google, and on YouTube, there's videos about it where it's like, what equipment does Joe Rogan use? Dude, his mixer, like his audio interface / mixer alone is like 12 G's.
Of course.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then you say, like, okay, well, this is the mics he uses, the boom arms he uses, the cameras they use, all that type of shit, right? And that's valuable information.
Right.
But I don't think a lot of people think to look that up. They just look at this big thing and they're like, oh, how the fuck do I do that? How do I, whatever. And that's the beauty of it is and that's what I did on his podcast is I told him, like, I broke down, like, and I'm really willing to, I will break down what I use, how much it cost me, how I got it, and all that type of shit, how you hook it up, how you do all these things. The best that I can articulate it, I will. Right? Because that's what, quite frankly...
That's why we trip and fall, is so others can not have to go through those hurdles that we did and maybe help it, make it a little bit easier.
Yeah, well, I had someone do it for me.
Yeah.
Right? So when
you can only speak from your own experience. Yeah. It's not like you're...
Well, I had somebody, one of my very good friends, Jay, he lives out in Arizona now, but at the time he was living in LA. And when I went to him, because he's the guy that works behind his desk at his home. Well, now he's got a new office space for his company. But at the time, he was the dude that, like, worked behind his desk 10 to 12 hours a day, made his money, right? Whether it was like making music, coding, whatever it is,
locked in.
Yeah, absolutely locked into his workstation. And so I went to him because he's a good graphic designer too. And I was like, dude, I got an idea for this podcast. This is the name. This is what I'm going to do. It's very simple, but I don't know shit about Photoshop and I don't want to learn.
Right.
I will throw money your way, whatever you charge plus $5 if you're my homie. Let me know how much it costs. This is the idea for my logo. These are like the 3 like logo setups that I want. And he was like, okay, yeah, sounds good. He hit me back 3 days later and he's like, okay, no, you're not going to pay me money. I'll just produce the podcast for you. And if you start making money, if and when you start making money, you can just fucking start paying me back then.
Right. That's cool. That's super cool.
Oh, yeah. But then I took it like, you think I'm going to make money? What the fuck? Okay. So he did it, and he pointed me in the right direction, and he didn't start, because he had asked me, like, do you know what equipment to get?
So he's the one who made the logo?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yeah, he made the logo. He made all my thumbnails.
That's sick, dude.
He set it up to the point.
Dude, you got to utilize your resources, bro.
Yeah, no, for real.
No one can do everything.
Yeah, there's no shame in asking for help. Like for me, all my thumbnails that I have, none of them were made by me. I mean, I make them every week, but I don't like make them. Like they're templates.
Right.
And I just cut out and cut in
right.
episode 115, 16,
right.
17, 18, new screenshot of the episode, right? Mm-hmm. I try to get a capture of the person smiling, right? So a new capture of that, and then the fucking guest name. And then when we started doing live episodes in July-ish of this year, I hit him up again, and I was like, dude, can you make me another set of thumbnails or templates that are similar but just removed, mm-hmm. so they look the same, but you can differentiate. Okay, this was pre-recorded. This is live.
Gotcha.
And he was like, done. And
cool.
Sick, awesome, thank you. So,
dude, that's some advice to our audience. Like, humble yourselves and ask for help if you want it in anything in life.
And so a good example of that, right?
You guys, like, it's so embarrassing. Like, you think, like, oh my God, this guy probably thinks I'm an idiot. I should know this. But
yeah, so a good example of that. So I had that same mindset. It's like, I'm not going to ask all the questions. I don't want to come off as stupid to my friend that I've known for. Which is a stupid thought process, because at that point I'd known him for 7, 8 years.
Dude, you don't know how to make thumbnails?
Yeah.
What the?
Well, so he asked me, he's like, do you know what equipment you need for podcasting? I was like, yeah, a camera and a mic. Fuck off. I got it. So then I went to eBay and I was like, how much money how much equipment can I get for $100, which is exactly nothing. I got these shitty little $20 mics. I got these really shitty $25 cameras that claimed to shoot in 1080p.
Hell yeah.
They didn't.
Shout out to China.
Yeah, they came out of, yeah.
I said it.
They came.
Our views just dropped.
They came out in the back of a Chinese fucking warehouse, shitty as fuck, and long story short of that is I sent him the footage, and he was like, we can't use it. All right, fine. And he pointed me in the right direction. He said, hey, if you can scrounge the money together, if you can get some help, these are the cameras that I suggest you use.
Yeah.
You're going to get the same quality of what these studio cameras that cost $1,200-$1,300 is, but they're not going to look as cool. Mm-hmm. But they're going to get your job done.
Right.
And I was like,
that's a start.
That's all I need.
Let's get this going.
Let's get the job done.
Right.
And they're great cameras.
Yeah.
And thankfully I got
Keep going. I'm just going to make sure we're good.
Yeah, go ahead. So when I got these cameras, I was very thankful because I got them during a Black Friday sale during the holidays, and a buddy of mine was willing to help me out and get them. And I am propped up by my friends. Like, I'm not ashamed to say that. They know I love them.
Dude, it takes a village to raise someone like that, and even in your career, you know what I mean?
No, it does.
Like, you look at even Joe Rogan, you look at all these podcasters, they all have a social, they have this family that kind of lifts them up. They depend on each other.
Yeah, exactly. They're a network.
Yeah.
And so, like I love my friends. They know I love them, and I know they love me. And so a buddy of mine who had some money at the time, and he was like, "Yeah, I'll help you out. Here you go." And he helped me get the cameras, helped me get some of the mics that I have now. And then it was off to the races from there, man. But that's my point. Is like to tie this all back. So what we were originally talking about is, I am more than willing to give my knowledge, because it'll save you time, it'll save you money, I promise you that. And it'll turn out a better product.
Hey, when I drop your Instagram, you're gonna get all kinds of DMs after
Fuck
this,
it.
right?
Yeah, please. Yeah.
I got a younger audience that's definitely trying to get their presence known online, so
yeah, hit me up. I will point you in the right. And now the equipment that I don't say this
but guys, this will give you something to work for. Yeah. It's like, remember whenever you were in like 4th grade and you worked your ass off to get a Crash Bandicoot game? It's like the same thing. You're just adults now.
Yeah, no, for real. And I'm not saying that. I don't say that I don't like bragging. I don't like listening. Oh, look what I have. But again, this is transparency.
Right.
The equipment that I have is not cheap. The shit is fucking expensive. Like, one of those mics, to get, barring the $200 audio interface that I have, and this is a very nice one, by the way. I like the Rodecaster a lot. It looks great, works well. I love this fucking. It's a 4-channel, right?
What's that? Yeah.
It's a 4-channel? Yeah, it's fucking.
Thank you, Roadcast. Shout out to Nate Murdoch. Love you, bro.
It's a beautiful system, and it works quite well. And it looks good too. So there's a lot of podcasts.
Oh, dude, there's so many options on this. I haven't even touched the surface.
Like there's one podcast in town that. Do you know who Johnny James is? The TikTok.
Yeah. I met him at the Christmas lighting last year.
Yeah,
he's a cool guy.
Yeah, cool dude. I met him at a comedy show.
He's actually exactly how he is in his
video. He is literally like that.
I thought he was putting on a character.
He's just that guy.
He is that guy in real life. It's just him recording himself.
But they don't take. Some of their episodes, they have the Rodecaster on camera. Other episodes, it's behind the producer's pit. But I've seen pictures of it where they have this exact thing, right? Yeah. And so it's like, okay, like that's a good piece of equipment for podcasting. But anyway, my point is, the one Shure SM7B microphone that I have, and for people that don't give a shit about nomenclature, that's the shit that all your favorite podcasters use, except for Tom Segura for some reason. But Joe Rogan...
Typical Tom Segura, always got to go against the grain.
Joe Rogan, Theo Vaughn, Jordan Peterson, Ben Shapiro, I don't fucking know. Insert podcaster here, they use it, right?
Yeah.
It's the big black...
What's the name of the mic?
It's called, the brand is Shure, S-H-U-R, SM7B. That's the nomenclature for the microphone.
SM7B.
Yeah.
ATG SM7B.
It is a fucking expensive... The microphone itself will range you between $350 to $400. Good XLR cables, and you'll need 2, will run you about $30 to $50 a pop. And then you need... I forget the actual name for it, like what the tech name for it is. It's like a power condenser thing. But the brand that I use, it's a little blue box. It's called a Cloud Lifter. Basically what it is, because those microphones are so big in the back of it, because it's got a ton of tech in its backside, because that does all your EQ and
so
all
if someone's a little farther, closer, it kind of adjusts.
Yep, exactly. And so it does all your EQ and all your standard mixing.
Right.
On its own. And so on the back of them, you'll see a couple podcasters with them. You'll see a couple other podcasters where they have the actual Shure faceplate on there, so you can't see it. Like, I have the faceplate screwed on. But if you unscrew the faceplate, or the backplate, I guess, there are 2 little knobs that you can fuck with, and they have 3 different settings on each thing, and you have to look it up to see what they do. But I went to YouTube, and I was like, what setting is best for podcasts? And it showed me, that was the consensus, and I set it properly, screwed it on so it never get budged with, never get fucked with. And so all of that audio engineering is behind there. And it puts out so much fucking power that you need to plug it into a power condenser, so it chooses based on what's going in that microphone how much it gives your audio interface, so this thing doesn't get blown out with sound.
Right.
Because I connected it 1-to-1 one time, and it just went like it just like the EQ levels were out the fucking ass. It was huge, right? So again, that power condenser itself is like another 125, 150. They sell out fucking fast, but if you're lucky, you can find it on Amazon where they do a package deal for it. Mm-hmm. It'll run you about $500. And it's a good deal. If you add up all the numbers.
That's how much a freaking PS5 is now. Yeah. I know all you kids got that.
Yeah, I don't fucking have one. I wish. I've accepted the fact.
I found out the hard way. I need to get one now.
I've accepted the fact. The way you feel about Mortal Kombat 1, that's how I feel about Spider-Man 2. Yeah. I've accepted the fact that my most anticipated game of the year, I'm not going to touch it.
Now everyone's already practicing on it. They're getting sick. You're going to get it late.
I'm practicing on Mortal Kombat 1 for sure. Yeah.
You've been playing it?
I have it on PC. That's my shit.
Dude.
Yeah, that's my shit.
I destroy people on the old one.
Yeah, so that's that. See, but
now I'm already behind, so whatever.
I'm the guy in my
Shout out Liu Kang.
I'm the guy in the group that my friends don't play Mortal Kombat with.
Really?
Yeah, like one of my best friends.
Sounds like a death match is gonna happen after this, guys. All you ATG fans know I throw it down.
One of my best friends that I live with now, Springer, he got really good into Mortal Kombat because he wanted to beat me, and he couldn't because it got to the point. He beat me in a few like rounds, but it got to the point where he got really close, and I started playing like a dick. And I beat him, and we had a few drinks, and we got real mad at each other. He like, threw the controller at me, almost got into a fist fight over it. Oh yeah, we were also a lot younger and a lot more stupid back then. But yeah,
who's your favorite?
So for Mortal Kombat, my favorite is Johnny Cage.
Johnny Cage.
I'll throw down with some Johnny Cage. I didn't like Mortal Kombat 11 very much, so I didn't get too good at that game. Mm-hmm. I got good enough to pass by. And I
think 9 was the best one since now.
Yeah, there's an argument.
I like the new one. I don't think it's that bad.
There's an argument for that. I think 11 is the lesser of the three. 9, for 9, 10,
10, 11.
Yeah,
because it's slower.
No,
some people say that.
No, 11 because it's
like the gameplay.
It's unbalanced, and I can't get
like there's players that are like OP or
no. There's just I can't get into the weeds of it as much as I could because I just haven't studied Mortal Kombat in so long. I was the dude that like studied the breakdown videos and studied.
Guys, we're gonna post the score after this.
I studied like how many like plus frames, negative frames.
Dude, you get into that's one thing that I actually respect about you is you look. Once you find something, you kind of have Joe Rogan traits. Like when you dive into something, you're all in, and there's you're gonna look at it every single way.
It's hard for me not to be.
Yeah, that's a good trait to have. But it's also kind of scary too, because you got to be careful what you get into.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you don't want to start
yes, for sure.
You know, you don't want to put your hand in too many baskets.
Yeah, that's why I'll never start cocaine. Straight up.
Yeah.
I know how my body reacts to fucking testosterone and caffeine.
Choo-choo!
And I'll never
Full
get on that.
stream ahead, baby.
Yeah, no. Yeah.
Just kidding.
I thought you were about to test the fucking Tim Dillon. Sounds like damn. Okay.
I was going to, but I have to play with this too much, and I'm like, I'll just leave it on the basics.
But yeah, that's the one thing I liked about Mortal Kombat 11 is when you went into the move list, it shows you all the nerd data about it. If you wanted to learn it, it shows the plus frames and the negative frames and the startup frames and all that shit. Right. On Mortal Kombat 10. I still liked Johnny Cage. Wasn't my favorite. Still liked him. I played a lot of Kenshi. I played a lot of Katana, and I played a lot of Jason Voorhees. Jason Voorhees was fucking broken in Mortal Kombat 10.
Was he really?
Yeah, there was a combo you could do if you had his X-ray built up. You jump in with 2. You do the same combo 3 times, and you can chain it together. It's literally a forward, 4, 3. Do that 3 times, and then do the X-ray.
Damn.
And it does 53% damage.
Dude, did you see on the new Mortal Kombat 1, there's and I don't know if it's real or not, but there's a combo string for Raiden that's 100%. I'm not kidding you. It was I watched the thing go from If
there is, it'll get patched because that's how it always is.
That's insane.
At the beginning of every NetherRealm game in the first month,
that's still pretty sick to see though.
Yeah, there's a character.
I don't have memorization that much. If we play, you'll be like, wow, you only know these 3 moves. But that's what pisses people off because
Yeah.
they're like, dude, quit grabbing me. No, I'm just kidding.
But yeah, that always happens with NetherRealms games where there's one character that has
Yeah.
a stupid combo, but, but then they patch it because so I was actually watching gameplay today from some of the pro players that are playing it and gotten really good. And Sonic Fox, he has a combo with
He's the best in the world.
yeah. Yeah, no. So it was Sonic Fox using Kenshi, and what's broken
That's
about
the blind dude.
What's broken about Kenshi in this new game is he has a ability where he whips out his sword and he creates an astral projection. So now there's 2 Kenshis on the board, and then if you can hop over or just get behind your opponent, so now it becomes astral projection, enemy, player.
And they have to guess which one's you, basically.
No, they know you're getting attacked from here, but your moves control the astral projection as well. So literally, he has a combo where he's juggling the enemy back and forth between.
So you can't block it.
It's like you're fighting 2 people at once. Yeah. Oh, it's broken
Dude,
as
Kenshi
shit.
is sick, though.
broken as
Dude,
shit.
the story mode in this new one is probably
good.
the best that I've probably
It's
ever.
great. I'm about to beat it. I'm probably going to beat it when we get out of here.
I watched the whole movie. I
yeah.
couldn't help myself. I'm not
good.
going to wait 4 months to. I have to.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
A lot of my
It's
YouTube
sick.
feed is like.
Yeah, you can't,
Mortal Kombat.
can't escape any IP.
It's a full movie. Like, if
using-
you guys don't have the game, you could watch it, and it's actually a really good movie.
Can't escape these days from an IP using the multiverse, but it's really cool. So my reason bringing that up is somebody was playing against him using like Kung Lao. No, they're using Liu Kang. They're getting their ass smacked, even though Liu Kang is one of the best in the game right now because his chip damage is ridiculous. So then he turns on Raiden. Raiden is one of the first characters, I guarantee it, in the next 3 weeks he's going to get patched because Raiden has a move or a combo string, just like Jason I was
Where he
talking
does
about.
that kick. He does that overhead kick like 5 times in a row.
He has this ability where what he's supposed to do is catch you in the air when you're coming
Is it where
down.
he grabs you and does that lightning pull?
Yes.
And he like
Yes.
does it multiple times?
Yes. So, but if you look at that, like at the game, if you watch people play that, at least in the gameplay I was watching.
My girlfriend's going to love this. Talking about video games for 30 minutes. Love it.
So this gameplay came out today of these guys playing, and fuck, dude, like the hitbox on that is almost full screen. It's insane. Like the enemy character was falling almost onto the floor, and he did an upward grab, and the hitbox picked him up.
Wow.
And he was able to do that 3 times in a row. Called in his cameo character, Jax, and Jax, the moves he did, is he comes in, does the backbreaker, but
And it resets the whole combo streak.
his backbreaker throws him back up, so Raiden does another combo and drops him. It ended up being like 50-something.
That's insane.
So I look at that, and I'm like, okay.
At least they have breakers in the new one.
Yes, I agree. And it's
At
like, okay,
least.
that's gonna come back, but the breakers cost 3 of your bar, of your
right.
meter or whatever. Yeah, but the new Mortal Kombat is really good. They implemented a lot of really good systems. I like the cameo system. I like the air combos. It tends to be a lot more balanced, a lot more fast. It plays like Mortal Kombat 9 if Mortal Kombat 9 had the tech to support what it should have been.
Right. Mortal Kombat 9 was fun.
Mortal Kombat 9 was awesome, but it was so clunky because they were just inching out of the 3D era, right? So it was so clunky. It was still very well made.
I like how it stays true to the screen, just not 3D.
It's great.
But I feel like this new Mortal Kombat game is a tribute to the 3D era.
Yeah, because they have a lot of characters from that 3D era. Like you have Reiko,
Shujinku and all those guys.
You have Reiko coming back. You have Havoc coming back. Who's the chick's name? Li Mei is coming back. You've got the golden chick that looks like a fucking...
The vampire chick?
Well, no, you have her, Nataro, voiced by...
the angel. The dark angel or whatever.
The angel chick. But no, Nataro's the vampire, and she is voiced and played by Megan Fox.
That's horrible. That kind of ruins it for me.
Dude.
She's like, did you see her in the studio doing it?
Yes.
She's like, oh my God, you got me. It's like, what the...
Dude,
when I think of a vampire, she'd be like, she's just like...
I thought Ronda Rousey was bad as Sonya Blade, but oh my Christ, Megan Fox.
And the only reason she got that is because that one piece came out where she like has blood rituals with her boyfriend or something.
Oh, her and MGK.
Yeah. And they're like, she's the perfect girl.
Yeah.
Which, dude, Ed Boon, I think, is a mastermind behind storytelling and all that. I think he's the guy who first started Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
He has full creative control.
Yeah.
That's been his only job. If you watch his interviews, that's been his only job ever.
For the last 30 years.
That's like, dude, that's awesome. That's the type of guy that I want creating my games.
Yeah, that's the dude that you want if he cares about what he's doing, like that's the
Dude,
brain.
he's all in, dude. That's all he knows. He doesn't have no backup plan.
Yep, that's the brain you want. He is so invested, and it's, you know, it's kind of like a no shit statement because he created, like, that's his baby.
Right.
He can do whatever he wants with it, and he understands what he's created, but then he also understands that there are people that understand it as well and care about it as much as close as they can to him, right? So I feel like coming out of the 3D era of Mortal Kombat, I didn't play a lot of it because also I was kind of young.
I didn't have a 64.
And then I just didn't really give a fuck, because I had friends who had Mortal Kombat, like Armageddon, Mortal Kombat. I think it was called Deception as well.
Yeah, that was like the 3D
on the PlayStation 2, and it just didn't play that well. And it was really like geometrical, and it was like, and looking back on it, you know, it's like, okay, that's what the tech had at the time. But then also,
those were the games that messed up your controllers, because like the controllers weren't made for that much like movement, and like you'd always have one.
A PS2 controller. That shit was made for racing games and GTA. Like, that was not made for fucking directional nonsense. But anyway, my point is he understands now that the technology has finally arrived to where he can express what he truly wants to do with that IP. And he has such a deep love for what he's created that it makes, like, what I love about Mortal Kombat 1's story is, okay, so Mortal Kombat is fucking dorky. Like, it's dorky, it's campy.
How many ways can you think of people to start fighting?
Right,
that's the whole game.
Exactly. It's like, okay.
Like, why did this guy likes this girl, but they're fight? Like, you have to be. That's even more challenging.
No, yeah, it's like they know they can't do another Shaolin Monks because that didn't sell well at all. They know they can't do a Mortal Kombat. What do they call them? Mortal Kombat, not Legacy.
Armageddon.
No, it's a type of Mortal Kombat game. Like they did one about Mortal Kombat Special Forces, and they did one about, it was called Mortal Kombat Sub-Zero, and they didn't sell well at all either.
Oh, like where it was a full story mode, like where you had to go with Scorpion and do all these things. It was like it's about the Nintendo game.
I'd only seen the gameplay a little bit about them, but I just know that I've seen their sales numbers and they didn't do well, right? They did not sell well at all. So they know they can't do like specific Mortal Kombat games, but then they also know that they have to like make it compelling enough to separate themselves from, like, because Street Fighter 6 came out this year, and apparently that game is phenomenal.
That's what I heard too.
Right? So they have to separate themselves from the Street Fighter 6, and then they know that people expect a story mode. But then it's also like, look at the format of what you've created. It's a bunch of, like, they're really comic book characters, right?
Oh, dude, they're all like their own superheroes.
Yeah, they have. It's a bunch of comic book characters.
One's fire, well, you know, it's like the X-Men but fighting style.
No, for real, and they're all coming together to fight. Okay, how can we get these action figures to keep clanking together, right? So
most of our audience is in their 30s.
Yeah, exactly. So now, I think that works to their advantage, is because a lot of the people playing Mortal Kombat now are in their 30s or entering their 30s.
So they can get even more gorier with their freaking brutalities and stuff too.
Not only that, but they accept it for what it is. And they understand how dorky it is.
I think Ed Boon did what they should have done with Star Wars. Whereas you take an old story, you pay tribute to the old fandom, you got to give them their stuff, but also you carry on the story forward. Like, you look at, okay, Liu Kang. Yep. His story is a full circle. Now Liu Kang is what Raiden was to Liu Kang.
Right.
So Liu Kang is the Earth God. Yep. Now Raiden is like a young dude. So it's like you're carrying this story on in its full circle.
Yeah.
And you're getting to watch it move forward, and it's not so much just about the past. Where I feel, I mean, Star Wars is probably a bad example to bring up, but it's just because they did it so horrible. Yeah. And they're like, but look, we got Luke Skywalker back. It's still good, right?
Well, look, I'm not as educated on Star Wars as I probably should be. Like, I've seen the movies.
Imagine he just goes into death. He's like, but actually, Luke should have been. No,
well, like I've seen the movies, and I've seen a few of the TV shows. I'm not gonna watch Ahsoka until I watch Rebels and Clone Wars, because like.
To make it mean, or like actually,
make it mean more. To my buddy I was telling about a little earlier, Springer, he's super into Star Wars, and he's seen all of Clone Wars, all of Rebels.
So he knows the whole arc of Anakin, all that.
Yeah, so he was telling me, like, you have your basic understanding of Star Wars, but don't watch Ahsoka. If you want the most out of it, you'll still understand what's going on.
Right.
But like,
you got Thrawn. There's all kinds of characters. You're like, what is this?
If you want the most out of it, watch the series or the animated series. And I know about Thrawn just like as an auxiliary. Like, I've heard of him. I know the books are good.
Right.
I want to read the books. He just looks
cool.
And he looks bad. Exactly.
Yeah, he just looks cool. It's like what you want a bad guy to look like.
Exactly. So, I mean, my issue with the the latest Star Wars movies, the sequel trilogy, I think they're calling it, right? The 7, 8, 9. I remember walking out of The Force Awakens, and me and my buddy went to go see, me and my buddy Dom, and he loved it. And I remember thinking to myself, I didn't want to rain on his parade, but I was thinking to myself, like, okay, that was good.
It was a good setup.
Like, it was good, but, like, there's something missing. Like, what? And looking back on it, I haven't watched that movie in years. Like, I think the last time I watched it was during the pandemic.
Yeah.
Shout
out to the pandemic.
It's missing, like, I don't know. Force Awakens was missing actual soul. Like, there's no...
That's a hot take.
There's no, like...
Spirit.
Yeah, there's no, like...
There's no one really...
love.
I mean, you're kind of rooting for Rey, but you're like, what's going on? Like,
well, there's no reason to root for her.
Yeah.
There's no real reason.
Because you don't even know...
Like, I love Daisy Ridley. I think she's a great actress. I love John Boyega. He's a great... Like, super underrated movie, Attack the Block. Go watch that movie. It's amazing. It's a British movie about aliens. Awesome. It's with John Boyega. Phenomenal movie. But the actors are fine. Like, Adam Driver is one of the best working actors today, and I will die on that hill.
Who's that guy? Which one's that guy in the movie?
Kylo Ren.
Oh yeah, he's sick.
Adam Driver's amazing. But
I'm trying to think of another movie he's in.
Marriage Story is a great movie. Black Klansman, another amazing movie that he's in.
He's like in another race car movie that's coming up. Something like that. It looks crazy.
I'm not sure.
It's like Ferrari.
Oh yeah, no. They're making a movie about Ferrari.
He's like the guy that created
You're
Ferrari.
correct. They are making the Ferrari movie. You are correct. But anyway, like they set it up, and even the trailers advertise it as such. They set it up as if it's going to be John Boyega as the Jedi, but in reality it's Rey. But there's no reason for it to be Rey, and then
the whole time you're like, who is the guy that we want to go?
And here's the reason, right? Here's the issue. You got to remember when this came out. This is 2015, and this is the beginning of the real acceleration of the like woke agenda, the hyper inclusive.
This is right whenever Disney bought out Lucasfilms.
Yes, this is soon after, and so you got to remember, like, this is a movie, and there's a lot of them. This is a movie made by committee. This is not a movie that is said and done by the creatives. Now, granted, you could look back 30, 40 years, and there's not a lot of movies like that, because at the end of the day, the producers have the say.
Right.
But at least, for the most part, the producers, as far as I know, and from what I've read, what I've studied, and also people that I know that are in the film industry, at least up until like 10 years ago, pretty much, producers and directors and screenwriters, they had conversations.
Right.
Now it is, you have to hit a quota, you have to hit a criteria, like for the Oscars, right? Now moving forward with the Oscars, if you want your picture to win
To be
Best
at
Picture,
least nominated, it has to have XYZ.
it has to have this many disabled people, this many people of color, this many people with this sexuality, this many people.
Well, dude,
this,
it's turned into what a presidential candidate is like. There's stakeholders in this business. So the movie is whatever candidate is going to go. So all these people invest all this money in, and they say, we're only going to give you this money, but we want this one thing. We need this one,
and the top one that wins.
And so by the end, the main director has no control. It's all the stakeholders, just like a president.
And just like a president.
They have this thing, this idea of what they want to run for, and then they start getting money, and they're like, oh, I'm suppressed now.
The top one that wins is still an old...
That's why like Trump and all these guys stand out, because they don't really have too many cookies in the hands in the cookie jar.
It's still an old establishment, well-set white guy.
Yeah.
That wins every time.
Right.
And this is how it is. Except for like Parasite a few years ago. That was a great movie too.
I still haven't seen that one. I heard it's really good.
Phenomenal.
Is it, dude? Everyone says that.
I've seen
but when
it,
everyone says that too much, I'm like,
no, it's good. No, I've seen it like 5 or 6 times. Like, no joke. Like, that's a movie that's gonna get studied at film schools, and it's gonna get studied and picked apart, and it is a legitimately phenomenal.
Is it in English?
No, no.
Dude, is it a?
It's a South Korean film.
Dude, the Korean
It's made by South Korea.
Dude, any
South
movie that's
Koreans.
been made by Koreans lately has been next level.
It's very good.
Have you seen that movie or that show? What is it called? The Kingdom. It's a zombie show.
I've heard of it. I haven't seen it, but I've heard of it.
Holy crap,
Is that,
dude.
wait, is that the one with like the samurais and shit? Is it that
kind
one?
of. It's just like takes place in like old like Korea.
I remember
And
watching.
there's like this weird disease. You know, it's like it's a
Yeah.
creative way though.
I think I started that.
Dude,
I
it is
haven't finished
insane, dude. You watch that? I mean, I feel like TV series is the way to go. Movies are too hard to, put a full good story in nowadays.
I
you
disagree.
need character development though.
I disagree. There are a lot of really great movies.
Let's see, name one right now.
Even today, I'll name a few, but there are a lot of really great movies now that get made that have a full arc and really care. And you can tell the people making them care, but they don't get as much attention. Like if it's off the top of my head,
but they're not like Steven. Like they're like in that. They're right below like the big blockbuster.
Yeah,
I feel like the big like it's like if it's right below like there's like a
with very few
certain number where people have full creative control. Those are the best movies.
Yeah,
that's why Netflix is kind of good and streaming platforms.
Well, I would say, excuse me. I would say that if you want, with very few exception, the blockbuster movies today are not where you want to go for great filmmaking.
Like great writing.
Great anything.
Like good content, back and forth.
No, great anything. With the exception of Tom
Cheers, bro. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday, buddy. With the exception of Tom Cruise.
Dude, I have so much respect for Tom Cruise.
It's funny.
Though he's kind of crazy.
I just rewatched 2 nights ago. I rewatched his post 9/11 Oscar speech. Have you ever seen that?
No, dude. That sounds like a build-up, though.
Do yourself a favor.
For what movie?
No, it's at the Oscars.
But
it's just
the Oscars is movies, though, right?
Yeah. It's the award ceremony for film.
So he was just like
he's at the Oscars, and you see
he received an award, or he was presenting.
No, he's just on stage speaking, and this is the first Oscars after September 11th. And
did he like get everyone riled up?
Yeah, he goes up there, and it's funny.
He says, "This is Maverick." He said,
for real. Like he goes up there, and this dude's young as shit, right? He's young, and he goes up there, and he's speaking, and he never directly references 9/11, but you could feel it. You watching that video,
the tone, the way that he's speaking to you, he knows what everyone's feeling.
You feel it in the room because they'll do like 75% on Tom Cruise, 25% on the audience, like camera panning and all that stuff, right? So, and he's speaking. And he's talking about what movies mean to him, and
he's like, "I tell you one thing: if everyone is in Scientology, this would never happen." No, I was kidding. But he's like, imagine he just like brings it home like that.
Well, he discusses what film has done for him even before he became an actor.
Yeah, so he brought it about himself, and like I'm gonna have to look that up.
Yeah, he talks about 2001: A Space Odyssey, the effect that had on him, and then he says something to the effect of, should we be celebrating film? And and he goes, dare I say it now more than ever? And then the place fucking erupts. And he is one of the last, like, true movie stars. If you look into, I'm sure you heard about it, what was going on when they
Hold on, let me try and catch it.
When they were making, I'll pick those up, I promise. When they were making the newest Mission Impossible.
Yeah, the latest one where he like drives a motorcycle off the mountain all crazy.
And I think it was Mission Impossible. It might have been.
It had to have been Mission Impossible.
But I'm pretty sure it was Mission Impossible, where he had the meltdown on set over COVID restrictions. Did you hear about that?
No.
Okay, so
I thought that was Christian. Well, it's probably a lot of
No, Christian Bale had a meltdown at a producer, but that was during.
That wasn't COVID related.
That was Terminator Salvation.
That was pretty epic, though.
No, that was Terminator Salvation. No, he was way out of pocket for that.
That was pretty entertaining, though. For just like, I love watching a train wreck. Shout out to Fuzi too. But
anyway,
Tom Cruise?
Yeah, so Tom Cruise, they were shooting either Mission Impossible or Top Gun Maverick. And what happened is there were 2 people, they weren't even actors, they were on the production staff. And this is like Tom Cruise had to use that fucking Scientology money to go to the producers and go to the government and fork out. He definitely, he never says this outright, and it's never like recorded outright. But I know for a fact that guy fucking forked out millions to make sure they could shoot that movie, right? So I'm pretty sure it's Mission Impossible.
So anyway, you never hear of that as an actor putting in their own.
Well, you hear about it when they're producers, but you never hear about it during a fucking pandemic because we haven't experienced one, right? So he He works his magic, and he makes it possible for this production set and this film set to be open, and they're filming the movie, but they're like, hey, you're under all these COVID guidelines, you can't break them. And what happens is, I guess they got audited or they got investigated or whatever. Some government official or some studio official came down and were like, hey, these two people were in the same room without masks.
They're violating this bubble or whatever.
Yeah, they're without masks within 6 feet, and they're talking. And I don't think Tom Cruise gives a fuck about COVID. I think he gives a fuck about making movies and keeping people's jobs alive. Because what happens is,
it puts everything in jeopardy. It's it's like a domino effect.
Yeah, so what happened is he brings all these people together and he just starts fucking yelling at everybody. And he goes, this is too fucking important. This is da-da-da-da. And he goes, the entire movie industry in America and overseas is looking at this production. If we fuck up, we could kill movies for everybody. And he's kind of right.
Yeah.
With how the government was working and how everything...
Dude, there was so many eyes on anything that was still...
Yeah, and it's crazy to me how a lot of people kind of just have this weird amnesia over what happened during 2020. But 2020 was a weird year.
Right.
And people are just kind of like not thinking about it right now, which, again, blows my mind. But that's a whole other conversation. But he goes, we have the entire film industry staring at us right now. If we fuck this up, we could jeopardize millions of jobs.
Right.
And he goes, I have talked to them. They're going to let this one go, and they're going to allow us to continue. But if I see you, he calls these two people out, not by name, but you could tell he's like yelling at them.
Jeffrey?
He's like, hey, you two, if I catch you two doing this again, you are fired. And
he's like, I will call the Scientology and make you disappear.
And he goes, I will. And he goes, for anybody else, if you guys do this, you're going to be fired. There is no question.
Straight to jail.
There is no issue with me doing that because we are.
So he almost brought life back into that whole
He did,
because it won over all the critics. Yeah. Like, wow, he's taking this serious. We like this,
and that's what's crazy.
Keep the machine going.
Well, that's what's crazy is they showed it was whatever movie he was making. He showed.
Let's pretend it was Maverick because that was a great film.
Yeah, so he showed that you could run a production during a pandemic. Okay, awesome. And then you go on to Maverick, right? That movie comes out and makes a shit ton of money, breaks records, whatever. And you now show that you can still make a great film that's not a superhero movie and make millions, almost billions of dollars, right? Because and what was another poetic thing, I guess, about the pandemic for film, or was poetic about film post-pandemic is, so back in 2002 when the first Tobey Maguire Spider-Man came out, that was the first movie to make $100 million opening weekend. Very first movie.
That was a sick movie to watch in theaters. But how old were you when that came out?
I was 5 years old. I was 5, and I saw that in the theater 3 times. I begged.
Was that not the sickest thing ever?
Yeah.
We grew up in the best time for superhero arcs.
I'm fairly certain that my first sentences to my parents were, "Please take me back to Spider-Man." Right? And that's back when movie tickets were $5 and whatever. But so
that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah. So back then. And it's crazy how times changed because back then that was the first movie to crack 100 million the first weekend. Now, if your superhero movie doesn't crack 100 million the first weekend, you got an issue.
Yeah.
Right? So anyway, Spider-Man is the first movie to make that much money ever. Flash forward to post-pandemic, Spider-Man No Way Home is the highest grossing movie post-pandemic, makes over, I think by the end of its hit at the end of its theater run,
700 million or something.
No, the end of its theater run was 1.5 billion. It made retarded money. Oh,
holy
yeah,
crap.
dude, I remember staying up. I was at my ex-girlfriend's house.
Shout out to the ex.
And very nice woman. Very nice woman. No, cut it.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Very nice woman. Very nice woman. She actually.
I'm just kidding, bro.
No, you're good. You're good. No, very nice woman. She actually took care of me during my surgery. So,
okay, cool.
Yeah, very nice person. No, well.
How about this?
Yeah.
Hey, we all need a good woman in our life.
Yeah, very good woman. Very good.
And so you guys went to the movie.
Anyway, so I'm at her house. And I'm waiting because it's the night that the tickets are gonna drop.
So you need to get them.
So I need to get them online. Dude, I stayed up until 3:45 in the morning because Fandango crashed nationwide for these tickets. And I had to get 10 of them.
Holy crap, dude.
Yeah, I had to get 10 of them for me.
Those homies better have, like, hooked you up.
Oh, well, because they gave me the money to buy them.
But they should, I mean, dude, 3 a.m. That's
yeah. So I had to buy them for me, her cousin.
Did Joey go?
Girlfriend.
Shout out Joey. Joey's cool.
Yeah, girlfriend's girlfriend at the time. Joey, Springer, David, and then, who else? Maybe it was 8 of us. Yeah, it was 8 of us. So I had to get 8 fucking tickets at 3 in the morning. And I'm just literally, dude, I had my laptop, I had her laptop, and I had my phone. And I'm just refreshing everything, waiting for it to come up. And I don't know how I did it, but I managed to get into the theater, IMAX, like 10 o'clock at night showing, and I got 8 seats,
Prime time.
8 seats right in the fucking middle, top row, and my tickets.
Damn.
Yeah. So anyway,
that is sick, dude.
Yeah. So anyway, post-pandemic film. That movie.
That was a really good film, actually.
Yeah. That movie made.
I have no complaints on that.
Yeah, it made a shit ton of money, and it showed that film is still alive. Superhero movies they were still they're kind of whimpering right now, but
they're kind of just repeating themselves.
They're kind of alive back then, 2 years ago, and it shows that you can still make money at the theater. Film is not dying.
Right. But
the issue now, in my opinion, is that commercial films aren't dying, but films with heart are dying.
Right.
Like shout out big like respect to A24, that studio company.
Do they make scary movies?
Yeah, they make a lot of different movies, but their most well-known movies are horror films, for sure.
That's how I recognize that.
Yeah, so like they made...
Now, once this gets close to October, dude, I'm all
Yeah, so like they made Hereditary, Midsummer.
Dude, Hereditary?
Yeah.
Well, that's a whole other conversation.
Great movie.
That's probably one of the most scariest movies I've ever seen.
So amidst all these writers and acting strikes, and they had a written out document like, hey man, this is what we need to make a deal with the studio companies. All the big studios were like, "No, fuck yourself." One of them, dude, it was the head of. Was it Bob Iger, the head of Disney? One of them was like...
Dude, that guy is in a lot of hot...
Yeah, because he was like, we're going to wait them out until they lose their apartments and their houses.
Well, dude, even like now with like the new Snow White film, he's like...
That's not his fault, though. That's the stupid
actress. I don't know, though, dude.
No, she's an idiot.
I feel like...
No, okay, so... so we'll get to that. So...
Bob Iger, though, right?
But yeah, so he he kind of took a stance for the whole like bigwig production companies, and he was like, well, we're just gonna wait them out until they lose their houses. They're asking for unprecedented things.
Yeah.
But A24, this little company that makes they make their money off independent films. Well, like independent, they get millions of dollars in their budget, but it's still like low compared to what the big movies are, right?
It's right. That's what I said. Right under that
here's how
giant threshold.
Here's how I put it: independent creators go to A24, right?
Like Rob Zombie type films.
Yeah, but better. Let's be honest.
But Rob Zombie, if you watch his podcast, he said the movie Halloween was the worst experience he ever had because it was such a high production and everything.
Weinsteins.
He said it was the worst ever.
Yep.
He said where you want to be is right below that.
Yeah, with the Weinsteins.
So as a director, anyways.
Yes, exactly. So yeah.
They're like, don't do this. Wait, actually, we love it.
So the what's it called? So A24, they saw the demands of these writers unions and the acting unions. They're like, all right, sounds good. We'll pay you.
Yeah.
That's all you want? Okay, sounds good. They're not asking for a whole lot.
Right. Now they're under all kinds of criticism.
Just the big hill that they're dying on for these unions is residuals. And, fair enough. I'm sure there's an argument against it, and I'm sure there's an argument for it. Right. I'm not educated on either one. I think you should pay people as much as you can get away with without breaking your budget. Right. I think that should be the general rule of thumb. Yeah, that's how. So anyway, so A24, that's why they're still making all these great movies, and they have a track record of making amazing films because they are humble enough to recognize what the landscape is, and they are actively undercutting all these superhero films. Because you can make a movie like Smile, for instance, right? That's a good example. Smile was on a budget of like $5 million, $8 million, right? And it clocked in like over $100 million. Okay, $100 million for a superhero movie, you're like, hey, Blue Beetle, Shazam 2, only $100 million? Right. You should have done better. But a $5 to $8 million horror film that makes $100 million plus, and Smile was great. I watched that and I bought that shit on 4K. I've seen that a couple times too.
Is it on? What is it on? What is it streaming on?
It's streaming on Peacock now.
Okay.
I'm a dork. I love having physical media, so I bought that when I could.
I'm gonna have to probably rent it. I don't have Peacock.
Yeah, do it, man. It's great. It's worth your fucking time. Like,
Yeah.
It kind of follows the same formula as like It Follows or The Grudge, but it's a good movie. My point is A24 recognized what the market is showing, and they're like, okay, we're just going to undercut it and make it what we can, right? So they make, like I said, they made that, Midsummer, Hereditary, The Green Knight, another amazing movie.
The Green Knight?
Yeah, The Green Knight.
Is it a scary one too?
No, it's a medieval film. It's like a spin-off of King Arthur. So there's an old literature book. I'm sure you read it.
I love movies like that.
Or like some of your friends read it in high school. It's called Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. Basically, what the story is Sir Gawain is a part of the Knights of the Round Table, and he ends up going to the court of this giant green knight, like literally monster, like swamp thing type figure, and it's supposed to be a duel, right? And the Green Knight gives up on purpose, and Sir Gawain kills him, but then he gets locked into a curse, and it's like you have to come back. Well, I'm about to butcher this. It's like you have to come back in a week, or like in a week I'm gonna kill you. If you come back and you have to come back and fight me in a week or some shit, or something terrible happens to you. I forget what it is. It's an old school like medieval type tale, right?
Not like Beowulf, but kind of like
it's the same vein.
Yeah,
it's in the same vein of a Beowulf,
like a hero arc. Like
yeah, for sure.
Always some type of thing to.
For sure. And what's great about that movie? I could be wrong, but I'm fairly certain the main kid in Hereditary, the guy that breaks his nose when he slams his table on the desk.
Dark-complected kid.
Yeah, he plays Sir Gawain. He's the star of that film.
Sick.
I'm fairly certain.
The kid's a good actor.
He is. But anyway, my point is that movie is so well made. It's so well shot. Like, the cinematography is off the fucking rails. It's very well made. Like, it's just a good fucking movie. A24, and they're killing it right now with, this is where I'll end this, they're killing it right, I haven't seen it yet, but talk to me. That movie is going viral on pretty much every social media platform. That movie is killing it in the box office. It's killing it with the 16 to 25-year-old demographic. I guess 18.
It's called Talk to Me.
Yeah, Talk to Me.
Dude, have you seen the, sorry, I'm so sorry to cut you off, but have you seen the preview to the new Exorcist?
I have.
It looks pretty freaking... Dude, isn't it so funny how, like, there's, like, a white possessed girl and a black possessed girl. They're like, we gotta be equal even in possession.
Right, yeah.
We can't just have it...
I am interested.
It looks pretty creepy, though, dude.
What movie did I see where that was in the theaters? I think...
Oh, where it was a trailer?
Yeah, I think it was Flash, where they attached that trailer to it.
Oh, dang.
I went and saw the Flash in theaters.
Yeah.
And... yeah, I am... The only thing that trips me up about the new Exorcist, I'm cool with sequels after the fact.
It's the true sequel to just the first one, which is kind of unique.
Which did not really.
Actually, no, they've had like Exorcist 1, 2, all that.
Well,
whatever.
No, that's the trend right now, is you wipe away every sequel.
And it's like we're starting...
And it's like, this is the real sequel. They did that with Halloween. They did that with Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Right.
I'm sure they're going to do that with Friday the 13th and Nightmare.
Probably.
Like, whatever. Okay, but my point is, what makes me wary about that movie is who's making it. So the guy who's writing and directing it is David Gordon Green. He just got done doing the recent Halloween trilogy. So he did the Halloween 2018, which was a direct sequel to the 1978 Halloween. So it's Halloween 40 years later.
Okay.
Then he did Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends.
Okay.
Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends are dog shit. They are not good. And I don't understand how it went so bad. Because I actually I did not like Halloween Kills in theaters. I don't like rewatching it. And I still do for some stupid reason. And I think the reason is because the kills are so cool. But outside of that, it's just...
not good writing.
No. And there's horror films, especially with slashers, right? You go into a certain type
You're like, okay, we know...
Yeah. You go into a certain type of movie and you have to suspend your disbelief far enough. Right? You have to give it some leeway to let the story execute.
You gotta have fun with it. You go in, like, with an experience. No, it's similar to, like, going to Disneyland and you get on, like, a ride... You know, you don't want to have super high expectations. Just go in and enjoy it for what it is.
It's not suspending your high expectations. It's setting them properly. It's just saying, I know what this film is going to give me. I'm going to give it leeway so it can have fun with me. Mm-hmm. You have to convince me that I like your movie. I'm not here to convince you that I like it.
Right.
You know, that is the burden is on the filmmaker, right? So, but Halloween Kills has so much stupid shit inside of it. It's bad. Like, and you can dissect that movie, and there's a lot of great YouTube videos
Which ones
that do that.
did Rob Zombie have?
So Rob Zombie did
He did the first one and the second one?
I'll get to that in a second. Because that's actually, I just rewatched those back to back one night. And
so the first one's Halloween, just Halloween
2.
Okay.
That's all. So then Halloween.
So they made more after that?
Yeah. So they made a trilogy,
Jesus.
and it's Halloween, Halloween Kills, and Halloween Ends. Halloween Ends has a really interesting premise. It's not one they haven't tried before, but it's an interesting premise of the evil of Michael Myers being passed on to somebody new. That would have been really good if you introduced this character, Corey Cunningham. If you would have introduced him in Halloween, the 2018 Halloween, and built the arc like.
Kind of like how they did with Saw. Like, there was a guy that were always kind of like...
Yeah, like with Halloween 2018. Like, hey, Corey's kind of weird, whatever. Halloween Kills. Hey, that guy's kind of, like, really strange. We should, like... try to lock him up. Oh, did he maybe like accuse him of a murder that Michael actually did? It's like, oh shit, did he do it? Did he not? And then in Halloween Kills,
so it's kind of that premise of
and then
like
Halloween
mentoring
Ends,
a new
him becoming evil isn't this weird thing that we have to accept in the third movie of a trilogy, the fourth movie of a quadology. If you really want to introduce, or if you really want to accept and include the first Halloween, which it is canon to these movies, so you kind of have to. It's not a trilogy. It's a I think I'm pronouncing that right, quadology. Where it's like all 4 films put together creates a whole story.
Right.
But no, it's Halloween Kills, or Halloween Ends, sorry. Halloween Ends just tries a lot of things.
So it ends with just kind of messy.
Well, it's too much too soon, and it gets messy, and it's...
Does it start off with like a hero spirit? Is it kind of good,
it's too little too late. That's I guess, the way to put it. Or too much too late. I don't know.
They might... Or didn't they just recently bring back the Scream movie?
Yes.
They tried to do that.
And I heard... So I saw Scream 5 in theaters when it came out, and it wasn't
I just recently watched Scary Movie.
Yeah, it's a good movie.
Dude, so when I was growing up, I thought that... I got them mixed up.
Yeah.
Because, like, I didn't know which one was scary or funny. So when I thought of Scream, I was like, that's funny, right?
Well, Scream lends itself... Scream lends itself... Obviously, it's not as, like, flagrant as the scary movies are, but Scream lends itself into the meta, like, how you survive a horror movie, how you survive a killer, whatever.
Right.
I saw Scream 5... wasn't too bad. I have not seen Scream 6. I've heard it's mediocre, but Jenna Ortega was good.
Right.
So I'll watch it eventually.
Yeah, Jenna Ortega is a really good actor.
Dude. So she
was really good in that new...
Wednesday? I heard
the Addams Family. Yeah, Wednesday. Yeah.
But she is in another A24 film. It's a movie called X. I'm not gonna...
Shout out to Elon.
I'm not gonna tell you what it's about, because you need to be surprised by the premise.
Is it on Peacock?
Probably.
I didn't get that.
But you should really watch it. I was surprised. I just knew that it was a horror movie.
Yeah.
I didn't know what it was about. I just watched it, and I was like, oh, this is a movie.
I love that, dude. That's really such a good feeling.
And she's amazing in that movie. But anyway, so the Rob Zombie Halloween films.
Yeah.
So I watched...
Which I haven't seen, so...
You haven't?
So I've watched every Rob Zombie film except Halloween, and I think it just goes back to when he talked about it on the podcast.
Okay, so
and
Halloween...
I'm kind of just true to, like, House of a Thousand Corpses, Devil's Rejects.
Yeah. So here's the thing with those two movies. House of a Thousand Corpses...
I love that film.
It was lightning in a bottle. That movie came out at the perfect time for that movie.
Right.
90s, gritty... Indie films are kind of coming back, and you have something that's so crazy. It's shot like a music video.
It was like going on a ride, you know what I mean? No, like it starts with this back road, like ghetto, whatever. All of a sudden you're underground with...
Well, it's just
all
weird.
These things come to life.
It's just weird. Very weird movie.
Yeah,
and
which is what we like as horror fans.
Right, but back then, you got to remember, like, so back when that movie came out, Halloween is not really a thing, like the franchise.
There was an open market.
The Halloween franchise is not really a thing. Friday the 13th is kind of fizzling out. I think
there was only like 4 of those categories really that was kind of...
And then Freddy's New Nightmare had just been coming out, I think. And Freddy's New Nightmare hit hard, but not hard enough to really like get the mass audiences.
Right, like a new audience.
Yeah, a new audience, exactly. And then the Chucky movies died out by then. Friday the 13th was really, like I just said, was really tanking.
Yeah.
So that was like the perfect pocket for that movie to come out. I am shocked that Devil's Rejects even got made. I am, because the way, I don't know what majors, well, that's not true. I take that back. Because that movie was made by Miramax, I think, or Dimension or Miramax, and that's the time that the Final Destination movies were coming out, and those movies are pretty gory too.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen the unrated version of Devil's Rejects?
Yeah.
Yeah. That
dude, even I just watched, and I know we just talked about it, and it's not really that good of a movie, but it's kind of like, it's worth at least a watch, is the Lords of Salem.
Yeah, so
there's scenes in there though where I'm like,
I'm sure
this is, something's wrong. Like I
sure.
guess that's part of the art, but when you're watching it,
well, so you're adding to my point, right? So Rob Zombie, his burden is his own brand, right? His burden is that he is so fucking famous,
yeah,
but he has the eye of an independent filmmaker.
Right.
And so the issue with that, in my opinion, is I see where he was coming from on the Joe Rogan episode about how the Weinstein brothers, specifically Harvey, they were interfering so much with his film.
Right.
Every Friday.
Every day was a phone call.
Every Friday they would get notes from like a rom-com, and it's like, make that in there. That's stupid, right?
Yeah.
Objectively speaking, that is stupid. But then at the same time, I think Rob Zombie's in the right. With his side of the story. I think that definitely happened, and I think he's in the right, and I stand behind that. But at the same time, you look at post-Halloween remake, that movie made so much fucking money that you look at Halloween 2, and it is so strange, and it is so weird. It's not really a Halloween movie. It's a Halloween movie in name and characters only, right? It is, I don't want to spoil it for you, because you haven't seen it, and you really need to watch that with a fresh eye.
Right.
But
that's the only ones that I have not watched. I've watched every single Rob Zombie film.
All I'm going to say is that Halloween 1, the unrated version, you need to watch the director's cut of both. Halloween 1 is one of his best movies. For me, it flips between that and House of 1,000 Corpses. I mean, the 20th anniversary of House of 1,000 Corpses just happened, and I bought the Steelbook at Best Buy.
That's sick, dude.
Like, it's a great movie.
I always rewatch it every Halloween, or every October.
It's a great movie, right? So it's between that and the Halloween remake.
Right.
My only gripe with Halloween 1 is there is that is not in the rated R version, and it is unnecessary, and it is graphic, and
it's like for no reason. It's like
disgusting. No, it's like legitimately like disgusting to watch. Like it's so real, and I don't know, and it's like, if I ever got to have Rob Zombie, if I ever got to have Rob Zombie on my podcast, I would love to ask him like why.
Right.
Like, what was the reasoning?
I'm sure that he would, explain it in a way where he's like, I want you to actually,
Right.
There's always, he'll have
but
some...
I want to hear that from his mouth.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because for me, because I have a strong stomach, and I have a real strong, like...
But why so long?
Like, tolerance level for film. Well, it's like, why was it so long? Why was it so out in the open and graphic? Why was it there? It didn't...
Right.
Especially when the execution of the first... I don't want to spoil it, but like the scene that replaces that in the rated R version works so well with the movie. Why have that in there?
Right.
Why replace that with a second?
Rob Zombie.
But the second movie is so weird, and he takes
in a good way.
That's up to you to decide.
Okay.
But Halloween was the first horror franchise that I really fell in love with. So I'm real picky about what I like in my Michael Myers movies. And there are more bad Halloween movies than there are good. I will be the first to admit that, right?
But that's the fun of it.
That's exactly. Some of it's the fun of it.
Right.
But there are...
Shout out to Mortal Kombat.
There are so many things that he does in that movie that directly contradicts what Halloween is supposed to be, what these characters are supposed to be, and what they have been, that it's like,
So he almost made it too much his own thing.
Yeah, so it's like, well, that's
instead
the
of
thing.
staying true
It's
to
like,
the.
I don't know if I respect him for doing it.
Right.
Or if I'm like, what are you doing?
Right.
I don't know where to land.
Right.
But what's funny...
That's why it's almost even better that when he just creates his own thing and you know what you're getting.
But then, that's why I bring up, I just rewatched these. I couldn't sleep one night a couple weekends ago. And I rewatched both of those films back to back. Like, literally like a double feature.
Yeah.
Right?
You need to watch 3 from Hell.
I hate that movie.
You know, I like watching it for fun. I
I
just like how he brings that little...
I couldn't finish it.
what are they called? Never mind, I'm not even gonna say it.
I was just bored. Like, I was so bored with that movie, I couldn't finish it.
I just like the full circle of the... I like seeing those 3 on camera together.
It was nice seeing Sid Haig one more time in that little jail scene he had. That was nice because it's unfortunate how sick he got so quickly.
I think that's kind of why I like it so much, is because I know that was pretty much his way out.
Yeah, but anyway.
Sorry, I didn't mean to change the subject.
No, you're good. But there is... I watched it back to back. And after so many years of those movies coming out, they have aged really well.
Right.
Even the second one. They have aged incredibly well. And I watch them now and I'm like, you know what? The first one's still amazing, but the second one has like a charm to it. Mm-hmm. And again, I don't agree with everything.
The weird one.
Yeah, I don't agree with everything, and I don't agree with all the decisions he makes, but damn it if it's not an original movie with a washed-out IP. Like, that is very, very interesting.
I'm going to have to watch him.
You should. It's worth your time. It especially if you haven't seen him at all.
Yeah.
Like, it's well worth your time. And since you've watched Rob Zombie films, you know what to expect.
Right. It's kind of cool that they're all all 3 made. I could just watch them all 3 in a row.
Well, there's only 2. It's just Halloween. There's Halloween and Halloween 2, Rob Zombie.
And then there's another one that was separate.
Then they did a new trilogy with David Gordon Green.
Where he hands it off to like a new guy.
Yeah,
or whatever.
so the...
Dude, how many Saw films are there, by the way?
11, I think. 10, around there.
Dude, I just logged on to, I don't know what I have. I think it's like, I don't know, Amazon Prime or something. And it was just like, Saw, dude, all the way, dude.
Yeah,
and I'm all for it.
Yeah, it's insane. Those movies are fun too.
They can just repeat the same thing. I'm just like, yeah.
I take it back. Spiral fucking sucked with Chris Rock. Yeah, it was with Chris Rock and Sam Jackson.
He's in a Saw movie.
Yeah.
Chris Rock.
Well, apparently, Chris Rock is a huge Saw.
I like the one where they're like doing the autopsy. And this is ATG. We'll go, like I said, I didn't even plan on talking about movies tonight. This is how we roll. But I love when they're doing the autopsy on the main Saw guy and they find the voice box in his stomach. I was like, let's go. This is what I had. I'm not leaving. In my head, I was just like, let's keep going.
Those are interesting films. But anyway, so it's the David Gordon Green trilogy that branches off the first movie. But the reason this all came up is I'm very curious with what they're going to do with The Exorcist. I'm very interested. I'm very curious about what that movie's going to turn out to be. So is the director like yay or nay? Because you said that you like pay attention to that. Yeah, because it's like his Halloween trilogy, it looks good. So it has potential is what you're saying? If you're to watch his Halloween trilogy, but you press mute, and you just watch it, the way it's shot, the way it's choreographed, the kills, it's like, that looks great. Right. But then you unmute it and you're like, what the fuck is this writing? Right. Even without the comedic stuff, because Danny McBride. So are they trying to be funny in Halloween films? No, it's not. They're not. Do you think The Exorcist will have some comedy? No, I hope not. No, that's a movie. Dude, that to this day, and I have I'm like you. I buy DVDs of all my favorites. Like if I have a box here, yeah, all my favorite scary movies. You know, Evil Dead 1, 2, 3, all the way up. I love Evil Dead. But The Exorcist to this day still gives me like. Well, you gotta. And then you look into what happened to the people when they were making the movie. Yeah, that was like there was something real going on when they made that film that almost makes it even more haunting. Well, because I think. Okay, it's not to completely change the subject, but I think... Shout out to Barbie. I think this feeds into it very well. There are good and evil forces in this world. I don't care if you believe in God or not. People listening, right? I don't care if you believe in God. I don't care if you believe in Buddha, Allah, whatever. But there are good and evil forces, and I think that when you play with evil too much, you let evil in. And I think that movie, The Exorcist... They went hard. They went hard, and they made a great product. But I think you got some... you know, you got some comeuppance for it.
Hey, you do like, over 50 retakes of someone playing with a Ouija board, eventually something might come through.
I think that and I need to watch The Exorcist. It's been years.
Well, that girl never did another film after that.
Well, and I just found out that there's a director's cut of The Exorcist. I've never seen it before.
The director's cut?
There's a
where they talk about everything?
No. There's like a director's cut of a film means that, so there's the studio cut, and that's what you see in theaters. Now, if you see a DVD box that says director's cut,
so it's what they wanted.
It's what the director wanted exactly.
So it's not monologue. It's just what they wanted.
The true version of the film, right?
I wonder if that's what I had.
So apparently, there's a director's cut of The Exorcist, and I want to see that because I've only seen The Exorcist once. I watched it in high school, and it didn't scare me to the point where I was like, oh my god, demons! But I was like.
It leaves you with this thought after where you're like kind of uneasy.
You feel, I felt disturbed. Like I felt like, oh, this is like, because me personally, I'm Christian, right? So I watched that movie and I was like, oh, this is blasphemous.
Yeah.
Like to its core.
Right.
Like it's, yes, they say very blasphemous things against God, and there's like the turning of the crosses.
But this is like what a demon would say if it were taking over someone.
It's not only that. It's not just the physical or the verbiage of it. It's the tone of the movie.
Right.
It's the way it's made. I'm not a fucking energy or like vibes person, but the literal energy of that film is blasphemous.
It's dark.
It's blasphemous.
Very dark.
And I can't, and that's not a knock on the movie, right? Like,
well, I mean, they just went so hard and so deep on what it was.
They had a vision for it, and they knocked it out of the park. But again, the religious side of me believes that again there is good and evil in this world, and if you play enough with evil, it's going to come back with you.
Yeah, and this was a perfect example of.
And I think that's why I think you have cursed movies.
So do you think you'll watch this new one?
Oh yeah. Oh fuck!
We should go watch it.
Oh fuck yeah!
I'll pay you double if you stay up till 4 a.m. for me.
I'm very interested.
Dude, because you know what? Well, my girlfriend won't even touch anything scary.
No.
Some of my friends, nothing.
Yeah.
I watch all my scary movies by myself in my house,
That's funny.
And I've even went to like the theaters and watched like stuff by myself just because, whatever. You know what I mean?
No, there's an enjoyment in going to the movies by yourself.
Yeah,
there's an enjoyment. No, I like that. I used to do that. I haven't done it as much recently.
But it's also fun to get to talk to someone after and be like, dude, what'd you think about that? Was that pretty crazy, right? Like,
yeah.
Go get some sushi after you just watch some girl's head twist around 5 times.
They still talk about The Exorcist or what? Sounds like a fun Tuesday night, huh? But anyway, no, I'm very interested to see what the new Exorcist turns out to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be fun. It'll be a fun movie to watch. Yeah.
So when we did the pod, or before we did the pod, we have our ATG Marvel DC wall. Which side are you on more?
I hate
DC or Marvel.
This is such a non-answer.
Comic books related.
Yeah. This is such a non-answer, but I'll explain it. I like both, and I like both for their own reasons. So I grew up like comic books are partly how I learned how to read. So I grew up reading primarily Batman and Spider-Man. Those were just the most accessible, I guess, and that's just what I got and what I had and shit like that.
So how did you did you go to like Hastings and buy comics? Or what did you do?
So I was very young. I was like 6 years old maybe, and my dad he bought me a action figure of Batman. And in the back of the packaging, like literally it had a long, big packaging. So it was a Batman toy, but in the back of the packaging, it had a comic book.
That's sick.
Yeah. And
sounds like a Hastings buy.
And I remember it was at Target actually finding it, but I love Hastings.
Hastings had some dope stuff, dude.
Oh, yeah. So back then, and I remember the story. It was Batman and Robin chasing down some nameless gangsters, and they chased them into a laundry facility, and they captured him there. It was very corny. But I still have that book in storage somewhere.
That's cool, man. But you should hold on to that.
Oh, I will. Oh, yeah. But back then, because now for like the rare people that go to comic book stores still and have a pull list. Like I have a pull list at a comic book store here in Albuquerque where it's like the floppy issues. I get those like every so often and I'll read them in stacks and move on with my life, right? I'm very far behind. But before that, like that was still a thing, but like what you could do is DC, I'm sure Marvel did as well, but DC offered a subscription service, like a magazine.
Right.
So there was a little card that fell out of the comic book and you checked what books you wanted and you paid for it.
That's sick.
So my dad agreed to pay for a year-long subscription of Batman.
Shout out to Papa.
Dude, well, yeah, he's not a very good person, but no longer in my life. But back then, I'll tell you this, like, and this is on the podcast, on my podcast before, so I don't mind saying it. But my father's not a very good person. But the two good things he gave me in my life were Batman and weightlifting. The only two things. So he bought me a year-long subscription for Batman. And back then, it was so inexpensive. And you got a discount if you did the year-long. A year-long, so 12 subscriptions plus an annual issue was like $30.
So he's just
super cheap. So you pay for it.
What do you get it like monthly?
Yeah, you get it monthly in the mailbox. And
That's sick, dude.
Yeah, exactly.
I would love to get a new comic every month.
Yeah,
that must have inspired you like crazy.
Oh yeah, so I would read that pretty often, and then as I started growing up, I would collect more. I would collect graphic novels. Like one of the bigger comics that I got into when I was like around 8 or 9 was The Walking Dead. I was super into zombies, and I was.
So Walking Dead was a comic series way before the show was ever even thought of.
Oh yeah. So
I didn't know that.
I remember I went. It's not open anymore. I forget what the comic book store was called, but I remember going in there and asking. I was like 9 or 10ish, and I was like, "Hey, what zombie comics do you have?" And he pointed me to Walking Dead.
She's a Nazi, and she's a Nazi, and you're a Nazi.
Shout out to Nazi zombies, Modern Warfare.
Yeah. So this guy showed me it was volume 4 of The Walking Dead, and if anybody's seen the show, in trade paperbacks, which is a collection of single issues, and in that volume 4 is when they got to the prison eventually.
Right.
So they got all the riot gear on and all that stuff.
They're ready to go.
And they show that in the TV show.
What season is that on the TV show?
Like season 3, I think.
I only watched up to season like dude. Should I go back and rewatch them?
You should
I
watch
got to season 2 and I was like,
yeah, you should watch it up to the Negan stuff and like season.
Okay,
7.
I'll rewatch that if you watch the
Kingdom thing. Yeah,
you have to.
But
Deal?
Yeah, Walking Dead is great. Yeah, Walking Dead is great.
So
but anyway,
I didn't know that about the comics.
The book is better for sure. But anyway, so I got into that really heavy, and then there's not a ton of zombie books out, but I just got back into superheroes. I read all of Walking Dead.
That's sick.
Like Walking Dead is that is one.
How did you get into like other comics and stuff? Like was it just that one and you kept getting it and then it sparked your interest?
Yeah.
Like wait, hold up. Batman's facing this guy. Does that guy have a it just connected everything?
Well, so I grew up. Before I was even reading comics, I grew up when like the Batman the animated series and the New Adventures of Batman was already said and done. The Justice League animated series was going on. No, that was finished, but then Justice League Unlimited was coming out.
Those shows were sick.
It's like the 2003, 2004 version of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles that was coming out.
What did you think of the Joker with dreads back in the day? Did you ever watch that on Saturday nights on CW?
Yeah, so that was the Batman. Not the biggest fan of that animated show, but I appreciate it for what it is.
That was a cool look for the Joker, though.
Yeah.
He was like all dreaded up.
Yeah, I appreciate it for what it is. But when I was a kid, I had all these animated shows, and like we just talked about, the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man was coming out, X-Men was coming out. This was like the new era of superheroes. So I remember like I would watch all this media, and then I'd think to myself, well, I want to read about these guys. Right? So I would scrounge my money to get my allowance that I had or whatever, like money from grandma or whatever it is, and then go and spend it at a comic book store. And then so...
That's cool, bro.
Yeah. And then so I would just keep collecting as much as I could. And then when I went off to military school, I stopped collecting in 7th grade. 7th and 8th grade because I just really wasn't into it. I didn't have the money for it. And then I was like, I don't want to like get back into it because like all this stuff is happening, whatever. But then I got back into collecting in 2011. No.
What's that, like your junior year?
No, 2011 was my freshman year of high school.
Damn, I'm feeling old right now.
Like 2011, 2012, because that was when the New 52 reboot for DC was happening. And so it's a brand new universe. Like I remember going to the comic book store and I saw Batman #1, Superman #1, Wonder Woman #1. I was like, #1s? What the fuck? So I swiped those real quick, and I was like, what's happening? And I'd been going to this comic book store for a few years. I still go there.
Right.
Comic Book Warehouse on Manal. Real nice people. And the guy behind the counter, Scott, he's like, oh yeah, they're rebooting everything. This is like a great time to start rereading. I was like, I'll buy it.
Guardians of the Galaxy, all that stuff started.
Pretty soon after that. Yeah, this is like right around the time the first Avengers was coming out. So
Marvel, Miss Marvel, all that.
Yeah, so I got back into reading comics then, and then I was like,
dude,
well,
that's so cool that you like actually...
Yeah.
Actually physically bought them and went through them.
Oh, yeah.
You're
So
one of the first people I know that's like done that.
Oh yeah, and then like I started reading when I was a little kid.
Dude, it's so funny though. Whenever I showed you my Marvel wall, you're like, "Oh, that's chapter 6." That's when they. I was like, "Damn, dude, this guy knows his stuff."
Yeah, and it's like I really got into my first Spider-Man book that I really got into as a kid was Ultimate Spider-Man. It was a very mature version of Spider-Man, and I probably shouldn't have been reading it, but it's really good. It's by Brian Michael Bendis before he kind of went off the rails. But he wrote a really good retelling of the Spider-Man world in this Ultimate universe that they're starting to bring back now, actually.
And the video games, too, right?
Oh, yeah. So there's the Ultimate Spider-Man video game,
right.
and that was based off the comic. A great video game, by the way. So I really got into that, and that's a great storyline. And that storyline ends with Peter dying that leads into Miles, right? So that's where Miles comes into play around like 2013, 2014.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, it just never really stopped. Like that was really what I learned.
Are you still into them?
Oh yeah. Like I have a huge collection. Half of it is in boxes. Well, like more than half of it is in boxes.
Have you read everything that you've had?
No.
Are you serious? So you buy them in bulk and then just go through them?
Yeah, well, because I got
Damn, dude.
So like post like.
And one thing that you guys don't know is like, I don't know if you still do this, but whenever you have a new guest on your pod, you'd break out a new bobblehead with like a new character.
No, not every. That was just that day because I got a new one.
That was
day.
cool.
The
I think
Funkos.
you had me. I think my character was Martian Man.
Martian Manhunter. Yeah, that's when I got him because
he's one of my favorite. That's so crazy, dude. Because he's one of my favorite DC characters.
I don't collect a ton of Funkos, the little like, Funko Pop figures.
Well, dude, you'll have them everywhere.
But exactly. But the reason why I was collecting those is because they were releasing a line of Funko figures based on my favorite version of the Justice League, which is from the 90s, written by Grant Morrison. So it's like Batman has this big flowing black cape and long ears. Superman has a mullet and eventually gets like electric powers.
Dude. USA, let's go, dude. Superman with a mullet?
Oh yeah, and that's when they really started showing Wonder Woman killing people for the first time.
Let's go.
The Green Lantern is Kyle Rayner, he would go on.
Is that the black one?
No, the black Green Lantern is John Stewart.
Oh, okay.
So Kyle Rayner, he was a rookie at the time, but he eventually in the mid 2000s goes on to be the most powerful Green Lantern, and they laid the groundwork in the 90s.
What did you think of the Snyder Cut?
Loved it.
I thought it was sick.
That is one of the best superhero.
I watched the original one in the theater, and I was like, I honestly thought it was trash.
The Justice League.
And then I watched the Snyder Cut, and it totally brought it back to life.
All right, so I'm gonna take a piss.
Sorry, man. I'm sorry.
No, I'm gonna take a piss.
I'm gonna take one right after you.
And we're gonna talk about.
We're gonna go at the same time. Ready?
All right. So, the Snyder Cut. So
Justice League Snyder Cut.
Yeah,
you can find it on HBO Max.
So I think you can't. Well, I really believe you can't talk about that movie without saying why it's important and why there's like such a huge movement behind it that like made that movie happen. Really pushed for it. Really like yelled at the studio for so long. And I really do believe that as much badgering as it took, it wouldn't have been made without the pandemic. I really believe that.
Do you think it had a lot to do with the fans giving pushback and stuff?
It did. Like,
do you think that drove a lot or not really?
It showed them the market for it, but again, like, in what other situation do you have a studio where everything is locked down, you can't make movies, but you have a movie that is 100% shot and 40% of the VFX is done?
It's like, why not just put it out?
You have to fix it. Like, you have to finish the VFX. You have to do all that. And they shot that nightmare scene.
What's VFX stand for?
Video visual effects, right? Like the CGI and all that shit, right?
See, I'm learning. I don't know about this.
So, and then that nightmare scene at the end where Batman and Joker and Deathstroke.
That was a cool scene, huh?
They had to shoot that during the pandemic because Snyder wanted to, but you know,
They were less than 6 feet apart, though.
but everything else was made, right? It was already there. So
the main people are just like, cut the fat. Let's wrap this thing
well,
up.
that's the beautiful part of that movie is there was no fat cut. It's a 4
No, the
hour
Schneider cut
movie.
in full. But like the Justice League that they originally gave us had so much left out.
So here's what happened, right? And this is not
Didn't
rumors.
he quit like halfway through the movie or something?
No, so that's what the studios want you to believe.
That's what I heard. Tell me what happened.
So what happened, and this is all recorded fact. This is not hyperbole. This is not rumors. This is like what actually happened. So Warner Brothers made a few mistakes, admittedly. And I love Man of Steel. I adore Batman vs. Superman. Like the 3-hour version of that movie. I thought, when I saw Batman vs. Superman in the theaters, dude, I thought that was the second coming of Christ. I lost my fucking... I watched that movie. I'm not ashamed. I have watched that movie in theaters 11 times.
Yes!
I don't know what that means.
I fucking adored that movie.
That's
right?
sick, dude.
I remember...
Is it true to the comic books?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I remember my girlfriend at the time... her and I went to go see, I remember she lived in this little fucking shitty town in southern New Mexico.
Shout out. So cool.
So, I went down there and we watched it together on a Thursday night. And then I crashed at her place. She goes to work the next day.
Yeah.
And this shows how much I knew about women back then. I told her the night before, so I thought I was good. I was like, hey, while you're at work tomorrow, I'm going to go watch Batman vs. Superman again. And she's like, okay, whatever. She didn't think I was going to do it. But then she was like, hey, do you want to visit me at work? And she's like texting me, and I'm like, no, I just sat down for a 10 a.m. showing of Batman vs. Superman. Like, what the... Yeah, I'm like, what the fuck is up? Like, I told you what I was going to... She was fucking furious with me. She was furious. Anyway,
She's like, nerd!
Yeah, no, yeah. So anyway, so the studio made a very poor decision in not screen testing that movie. They let Snyder make the movie he wanted to make. Now, as a fan, I'm like, hell yeah, that's a great movie. But that movie, and you got to remember too, it's all in context, right? When did that film come out? So Guardians of the Galaxy had just come out.
Second one or first one?
The first one. About a couple...
It was that long ago?
Yeah, it was like a year and a half
dude.
or so.
So how long did the Snyder Cut come out after the first one?
We'll get to that.
Okay.
So Batman vs. Superman comes out about a year and a half after Guardians. This is 2016, so we're just after Avengers Age of Ultron. Marvel is rocking and rolling.
Right. They got their whole thing set up. We got Thanos. We're teasing everything.
Yeah, we're full steam ahead. We're a year away from Infinity War. Like, this is the height of Marvel. And so DC is trying to get their shit together. And they're like, oh, it's Batman and Superman. Like, this is going to make $1 billion. And that movie should have made $1 billion. But because that movie was more spoken word and dramatic and story driven rather than character driven,
right.
rather than explosions and quips and all, and that's not to take away from what Marvel was doing.
But DC has to separate themselves from Marvel in some way.
But here's the issue. Because they were so stuck on Batman vs. Superman making $1 billion, that when it made 830 million, they considered it a failure. And then what happens is they freak out and they start editing and they completely steal Suicide Squad from David Ayer. Right? And that's why there's a movement online for the Ayer cut of Suicide Squad.
The first one?
Yeah, the very first Suicide Squad. And I got a buddy of mine who's actually an insider at Warner Brothers, and he's seen the original version of Suicide Squad. He's seen the Ayer cut, and he said it's phenomenal.
Are you kidding?
Have you seen Suicide Squad?
Yeah, I didn't like it.
With Will Smith and Margot Robbie.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of whack.
So he said it's a completely different tone. There is no commercial music in it. There's a lot different scenes in it. It's the same story, but it's a different film. And the way it feels, the way it flows, it's just a more serious.
Isn't it crazy that there's like 2 films out there, like per one film?
Yeah. Well, you got to figure too, like this David Ayer had just gotten done making Fury. And Fury was such a hit that he could do whatever he wanted, and he did, right? So anyway, so they completely steal Suicide Squad away, they butcher it up, and they actually had a company that a mediocre one at that. They had a third-party company where up until that point, they had only made movie trailers. Those were the guys that edited Suicide Squad. And if you rewatch Suicide Squad through that lens, it makes sense.
Yeah.
That movie is edited
It's like watching a music video.
Yeah, it's not a very good movie. So then you get into Justice League.
Which is right after Suicide.
Yeah. So they shoot Batman versus Superman. They wait like 3 or 4 months, and they go right back to shooting Justice League, back to back, so they could get Justice League out.
We got these two guys. They're the two guys.
Well, that was the studio directive. Was we can do Suicide Squad over here, but make sure Justice League can come out the next year. Right. So, and that was the big teaser for fans with Batman versus Superman. It's like, oh shit, Darkseid's coming to town. We got to get the Justice League together because this is going down.
We got a big bad finally.
Yeah, we have
our version of Thanos.
Yeah, exactly. It's like we have to get the superheroes together so we can fight Darkseid. That was the narrative thing. And as a fan, all my wildest dreams were coming true.
Yeah, you're like, let's go.
I was like, oh my god,
this could be like Marvel's version, but darker and better and more gritty.
It was gonna be the DC universe that I wanted.
Right.
Like I was like, okay, great. So then, what ends up happening is they're shooting Justice League, and I guess they're giving Zack Snyder a ton of notes, like they did for Rob Zombie, right? But Zack Snyder didn't fucking pay attention. He's like, "Fuck you guys, I'm making my movie." So he just keeps making this 4-hour Justice League movie. Now you can criticize that for sure, because it's like, look, even if you were given a 2.5-hour, 3-hour directive, and you make a 4-hour movie, like you're gonna get the way he makes movies. There's a lot of directors that do this. You're gonna have a lot of footage you cut out. Like that always happens, right? But if you're going after it to say, I'm gonna make the biggest, longest, like the biggest story that I can or biggest movie that I can for the story I want to tell, all that stuff, you can tell that one of two ways, right? So anyway, so he's making the movie. They finish shooting everything that is now the Snyder Cut. They finish all of that in, I want to say February of 2017 or so, January of 2017. They finished filming all of that. And no, actually, just kidding, because April of 2017.
It feels not that long ago, but that's kind of crazy to think.
It's 6 years ago. Yeah. So then what happens?
If you watch it today, it still stands.
June of 2017. One of Zack Snyder's. He's got a big family. He's got like 6 or 7 kids. One of his daughters commits suicide, and he's like, "Nope, I have to stay with this movie. We need to finish this movie." And at that point, the studio has already suffered and one thing I glossed over is the critics were not very friendly to Batman vs. Superman. The fans,
like Rotten Tomatoes type stuff.
Yeah, most of them liked it, but a lot of critics tore BVS apart. But when unreported, which is stupid because Warner Bros. Should be acting in their own interest, when Batman vs. Superman came out on physical media and the 3-hour director's cut came out, a bunch of people sucked that movie's dick.
Yeah.
They're like, this is amazing. Like, where was this in the theater? But they didn't report on it. They didn't inflate it. Whatever. So
really, the audience didn't really know what was out there.
Yeah. So now they've suffered the critical loss of Batman vs. Superman. They've suffered the critical and audience loss of Suicide Squad. And so now they're going into...
They're throwing a Hail Mary.
Yeah, they're going into Justice League and they're shitting their pants and they're like, we need to get Zack Snyder out of here. But in the common denominator with this guy and his movie sets, whether it's interviews about 300, Watchmen...
There was a lot of scenes that brought me back to 300 watching that movie.
Oh,
it was like...
With the Amazons and stuff.
Oh, yeah, dude. Or even like with Flash.
If you watch a bunch of these... a bunch of actors in their interviews that have worked with Zack Snyder over the course of his career, they all say he's such a nice guy.
Right.
All the crew says he's such a nice guy.
That's a cool name, by the way.
Yeah, it's a fucking killer
That's
name.
a sick director name.
He's an action figure, right? And he's jacked, too.
Is he?
Oh, yeah, he's built. Anyway, so he has a reputation of being a nice guy.
Yeah.
Very easy to work with, easy to negotiate with on a studio, whatever. So... they were the only rumor in all of this is that they were already looking for a way to get him out of the movie. But now,
because they wanted full control, they had their idea,
and they wanted to change.
They're like, we want to make it as much like Marvel as we can. We need
exactly. So then,
that's where DC.
That's where they fucked up. DC is not Marvel.
They're meant to do. Oh, go ahead and finish what you're saying.
So what happens is his daughter commits suicide. He sticks with it, but around the second week of June, Zack Snyder goes to the studios and he goes, "Hey, I need to step away. My family needs me. I can't do this." They say, okay, sounds good. Now, what really did not age well is I remember reading reports from the studio where they were like, these guys, these studio heads were giving interviews, and they were like, we gave Zack Snyder the opportunity to push the film back so he could be with his family and he could still come back and work on it, but he insisted we finish it. Now that's a load of bullshit, and we all know that.
Yeah.
Everyone with the lick
They found their narrative.
Yeah,
They're like,
exactly.
we're gonna stick with it.
So then what happens is they bring in Joss Whedon, and allegedly Zack Snyder gave his blessing. I don't believe that for a second either.
So it was almost just like one of those things. You just had to.
It's a very
He's
corporate
like, whatever,
thing.
do what you gotta do.
Exactly.
Keep
So
talking.
yeah. So Zack Snyder comes in, and what ends up happening is they go in and they tell Joss Whedon, and why Joss Whedon took this job, I will never understand. Because he talks about how bad of a work environment it was for him coming in, but then there's also reports of Zack Snyder, those reports of Joss Whedon harassing Gal Gadot, harassing Ray Fisher, all this stuff. So, take his word with a grain of salt. But they tell him at about June. Now, mind you, Justice League is coming out November of 2017. November 16th, 2017, Justice League is coming out. No, 17th, I'm sorry, 17th.
Dude, you have that memorized.
Yeah, November 17th, 2017, Justice League is coming out. This is June of 2017. So they have June? So let's say half of June.
Right.
So June to July, 1 month. August, September, October, November. You have 5 months to reshoot, rewrite, re-edit, VFX, everything, this multi-million-dollar movie. Okay, have fun, right? So they made Joss, by the end of the product that we now see, that is the Justice, that's what it's called now, right? The Justice League.
It's like a
There
joke.
He reshot, they only use like 20% of Snyder's footage. So he reshot a movie, and they edited it, and they had to reshoot, rewrite, re-edit, re-everything in 5 months. And that's why we get Justice League the way it came out. So then what happens is, so the hardcore DC and like DC Snyder fans, they're like, what the fuck was this movie? This is not a Zack Snyder movie. Like, you look at it, like, as a color.
You're like, that didn't make sense.
Again, if you look at the movie and you press mute, you look at the color.
I like how you do that, by the way.
Yeah.
I used to watch Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah.
And I would just put on my headphones to techno music and just watch it for what it is.
That's funny.
And I'm like, this is epic.
But you look at that Justice League from 2017,
Justice League.
and the color palette isn't a Zack Snyder movie.
I don't know what that means.
It's not a Zack Snyder film, right? It's in full color.
So did Zack Snyder, was he involved in 300?
Yeah, he's a director.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. So
One of the best films ever made with the lowest budget ever.
it's amazing.
I think that breaks records for lowest budget, highest income
No, definitely.
for that time, though. If you look up like what the budget was for that film and how much it made, it was like ridiculous.
I know it made a lot of money, but I don't think it set any records. I'll have to look that up. Remind me, I'll look that up afterwards.
I'm probably wrong, but I remember it was enough for me to be like, oh, dang.
Well, it made a shit ton of money. But anyway.
Okay.
Anyway, so
And I want to end this. I want to talk about comedy before we...
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Well, I'll end it here. So the fans look at that and they're like, this is not a Zack Snyder film. Who the fuck made this movie? What the fuck is going on? And then over the next couple of years, this is 2017 to like 2019-ish, right?
Mm-hmm.
Zack Snyder is releasing on social media these pictures and behind the scenes and these sketches of what his movie
On his own.
Yeah.
Like, this is my
of what
product.
this movie should have been. And fans are like, what the fuck is, like, we need this movie. So
Showing different edits of the bad guy. He looks way sicker.
So the release the Snyder Cut movement happens. And then on the second anniversary of the movie in 2019, there's a social media campaign again, but this time it's the actors. So Ben Affleck, Gal Gadot, Ray Fisher, Jason Momoa. Jason Momoa was the most vocal. He would keep going on social media. Like, literally, he would film videos of himself yelling, release the Snyder Cut. So Affleck, Gadot,
I feel bad for him because Aquaman 2 is going to be the worst.
Yeah, Momoa. All these people were... Ray Porter, who played Darkseid. All these people came out and were like, release the Snyder Cut.
Right.
What the fuck are we talking about here? And so I look at that, like, I'm not a creative at that level, obviously, but I do want to get into film. And obviously a big part of my life is creative through like the podcast and through comedy, which we'll talk about here in a second. I look at the way he was treated, and I want to be a director one day, and I want to write films. And if a studio, like, that shows the normal person, like, let's really think about this for a second. That shows the normal person how cutthroat and how bloodthirsty and how disgusting these studio executives are. They will use your daughter's... they will use these studios will use your daughter, her suicide. They will use that against you to remove you from a project
100%.
because they want to make money. Like, that is ugly,
That's
dude.
ruthless.
And so that pissed off a lot of fans for...
Dude, when you...
And you gotta... Hang on.
Well, comic book fans, you cannot, slide through that.
But you gotta think about what's going on in the cultural zeitgeist at the time. Mental health awareness. This is like when it could not... Like, if it's at its peak November 17th...
They didn't even care at all.
Yeah, the next peak is November 18th, and then the 19th. Like, it's only growing in popularity about talking about mental health and depression, anxiety. So then when you hear someone's situation...
So Snyder finally rises at the end?
Yeah, so the pandemic hits, and they start talking... And I guess after that movement, when, like, Ben Affleck and all them were talking about it...
They're like...
the studio... And then COVID started happening around, like, December, January-ish. Like,
They're like, no one can film. We already have all this footage.
Well, they went to Snyder and they're like, okay, what does this look like? What does the Snyder Cut look like?
Is it canon?
Yeah, it is.
Overtops.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so if you watch,
because that's what I was kind of hoping for.
So if you watch The Flash,
the ending was sick.
They reference the Snyder Cut. But anyway, so they talked to him and they were like, okay, what does it look like? And he screened the movie with them, and again, only like 30% of the visual effects were done. So they were like, okay, well, what if we just released it as it is? The VFX is not done, the editing's not done, and Snyder was like, no, fuck you, because then if you do that, only you win.
Yeah.
You get to say you released this.
Look, this is what you on this.
Yeah,
look, it's...
Exactly, precisely. So he's like, no, this is what we have to do. This is how we finish it. And they're like, okay, maybe we'll revisit later. Well, 2 months later, a pandemic happened, and they revisited, and they're like, how do we do this? So
because they had nothing else to do.
Exactly. So they threw like 70...
Perfect recipe ever.
So they threw...
Honestly, that's the only good thing that came out of the pandemic. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, no, for real, it is. So they threw $70 to $90 million at it, and they fixed it, and it is what it is, and I stand by it. That is one of the best comic book...
It is so sick,
It's
dude.
only
it's
gonna...
a 300. It's everything you want.
It's only going to age better.
Because it has these scenes that you read when you're reading a comic book.
Yeah.
There's these cool action shots that just... they have that moment, you know what I mean?
What's beautiful about Snyder's films is you can pause.
You sit in that moment.
You can pause it at almost any time.
And it's a picture of art.
Yeah, you can pause it. I'd say 90% of that movie, you can pause it and it looks like a panel in a graphic novel. Like, that dude has... Look, I don't like the way he writes...
Do you think... Is he a comic book fan?
Oh, yeah. He
has to be, huh?
I don't think he's a great... I think he's getting better at writing.
He's good at capturing scenes, though.
Well, he's getting better at writing because Army of the Dead was okay. Not great, but it was okay.
It was kind of fun.
But the writing was a little iffy, you know what I mean? But
shout out to Jamie Foxx.
He has an eye. He has a real eye for cinematography, for action scenes.
I think that's his biggest strength.
Yeah, he's legitimately a visionary director in the strictest definition. He has a vision for what he wants, and he executes it as such.
Right.
He's a... Like, I can't talk enough about that fucking movie.
That's sick, dude. I'm so
good.
glad that you respect it and like it as much as I do.
It's beautiful.
Because I love rewatching it, and like you said, you can watch it on mute, and it's still just as good.
Yeah, it's phenomenal.
But dude, I kind of wanted to, I'm not end this podcast, but I want to at least... I can't do this podcast without at least touching on comedy, stand-up comedy, what it means to both of us, how you're kind of entering this atmosphere, this new world.
Ask away. Let's do it.
So, I want to say within the last year... Within the last couple months, you've done a couple sets here in Albuquerque. And I've seen them. I watched them live. Or I watched whatever you put out.
Yeah.
I love it, dude. Thanks. I love that you're putting yourself out there.
Trying, yeah.
I love that you're... Dude, it's so hard to break away from one little box that you're in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's very challenging. And there's a lot of stand-up comedians that would not ever even touch a podcast realm. You know what I mean? Or there's a lot, like it's hard to.
No, that's actually you don't know how true that statement is.
But it's very hard to do this. You know what I mean? Like you do one thing, okay.
Out of respect for people in the scene, I'm gonna keep my mouth shut. But you don't know how true that is.
Yeah. So I just want to say, man, like the fact that you're putting yourself out there, you're taking time to write bits, you're showing up to these scenes, you're doing that. What is that?
And I don't say that.
What draws you into that though?
Yeah. So
like what inspired you to go into the comedy world?
Yeah, for sure. And I'll answer that. But I just want to say I don't say what I just said out of disrespect. I said it because
I don't think anyone took it like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that do comedy, and I don't even consider myself. I really don't. I don't consider myself a comedian. I consider myself a comedy fan. But I don't consider myself a comedian because I have not been doing it long enough, nearly. And there are people that only do comedy and they do it as like their social life, but I don't see the desire to expand on it. Mm-hmm. And I'm talking a little hypocritically right now because,
But there's one problem. Everybody still thinks that I absolutely suck.
Is that The Rock?
I don't know. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it's The Rock.
Nate Murdoch put all these sound things in, so I'm just playing with them.
It's on camera. Ew. Okay, anyway, so...
Fuck it.
Is that Bill O'Reilly? We'll do it live.
You have a good ear, dude. Yeah.
Anyway, so... I grew up in middle school. I remember getting a Jeff Dunham DVD and thinking that was one of the funniest fucking things I had ever seen in my life. And I was like, what? Like, I'm not afraid to say it. Jeff Dunham was my first stand-up comedian.
Wait, what is he the one who does the puppets?
Yeah. He was the first comic that I saw. I can't remember who the first stand-up set that I ever saw.
I think mine was
TV.
Probably Dane Cook, honestly, on YouTube.
It might have been Dane Cook.
I remember he was the first one. I was like,
but he was the
a B&E, bro.
Jeff Dunham was the first one that I saw his comedy and I understood it because he hits that fine line of mature and family. You know what I mean? So I saw that and I was like, oh shit! Like this is fucking hilarious. What is this?
Right.
As a middle schooler, and then. At that same time, going into high school, right? So 8th grade and 9th grade-ish is when Netflix was really getting into the streaming game. And that's when they really started putting out their streaming movies. Right. And they all started doing stand-up specials.
Yeah, so and you can just YouTube them.
So in high school, I really got, me and my friends were obsessed with Bill Burr. We rewatched...
Dude, it was so fun to watch him just even Bill Burr's most famous for that one bit that wasn't even a bit where he just roasted the audience for 30 minutes.
I mean, I'm sure.
Yeah, I know you've seen it, dude. I know.
That, yeah.
Bill Burr, and it's only on audio. He just goes off.
Oh,
because there was a heckler, and he's just rips him. But it's one of his best things ever.
Yeah. So we were obsessed with Bill Burr, and then I started expanding a little bit, and so that's when in middle.
So this kind of started in high school ish.
Yeah, because I listened to Dane Cook, Vicious Circle in middle school, but I didn't really understand it. You know what I mean? I didn't understand who Dane Cook was. I just knew that he was a big comedian, and I knew that I saw his CD at Target. And so, but I didn't really understand why it was funny. I didn't understand how it was funny. I didn't understand what he was talking about most of the time. The only bit I remember from his is where Dane Cook, his dad or his mom or his grandmother, someone in his family that was close to him died of cancer. And the whole bit was him talking about an email that he kept getting from a fan, and then hit a fan, but turned into a hater, and this person emailing him was like, this person in your family died of cancer to get away from your shitty comedy. And then
he made a bit
about it. And then Dane Cook's comeback was really funny. And that's the first real Dane Cook joke that I got. But I kept growing up in high school watching a ton of stand-up, wherever I could find it. So it was a lot of Bill Burr, old school Tom Segura, a little bit of Joe Rogan.
Fat Tom Segura.
Yeah, a little bit of Joe Rogan, not a lot of it. Joey Diaz I got into.
I feel like once you start watching JRE, your comic realm just expands.
And then I got into some. I love the roast battle or the Comedy Central roast
With Whitney Cummings.
Yeah, so Whitney Cummings, fucking Tony Hinchcliffe, Nikki Glazier, Cedric the Entertainer, Patrice O'Neal. Oh my God, Patrice O'Neal. One of the greatest to ever do it, obviously.
I love watching him on Kill Tony.
So Patrice O'Neal was really good. And then, obviously, Dave Chappelle. I grew up on Chappelle's show in middle school. And what I really liked about Chappelle's show, that had a significant impact on me because he would do introductions into his skits, but it was also stand-up comedy. But then the skits were fucking hilarious.
Mm-hmm. It was like this fun world of like SNL, but also stand-up comedy.
It was what SNL
Should have been.
What it used to be, right? And then
Dude.
at the end of the episode, he would introduce, like, he had fucking Mos Def on his show. He had Kanye West on his show. Like, he had a bunch of rappers that were fucking amazing at the end of Chappelle's show.
Dude.
So then I get into high school, get into college. And
so you were just always kind of a fan from the outside.
Yeah, and then around senior year of high school, freshman year of college, is when I started getting into the Joe Rogan experience. And I'm like, oh, this is actually kind of neat. Because I remember like, oh, we had Bernie Sanders on. What the fuck? What? The Fear Factor guy what's a podcast? I had no idea what a podcast was back in college. I was like, what the fuck? I thought I saw a podcast as like an app.
You were in college. Like, what year is this? Like 2014.
This is 2015.
Okay, 2015.
2015 going into 16. And so I remember like the podcast. The only thing I knew about it was like a little app on my iPhone. But I was like, the Fear Factor guy has a podcast.
Yeah.
Okay. The presidential candidate Bernie Sanders.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? So I remember getting into the Joe Rogan experience.
No commercials?
Right, exactly. I was like, I got to do a little bit. And I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. And then, like you just said, expanded my comedic,
interest,
library and interest. And comedy has never, specifically stand-up comedy, it's never not been a part of what I ingest. And it's only accelerated through the pandemic. And I always, like, envisioned myself, like, saying funny things in front of people, but I was always too shy to do it. So I just kind of kept it to myself, like, man, like, I'd love to be able to make people laugh. I'd love to be able to, like, get up on stage and do that, but I was always so shy growing up that, like, I was never that guy.
Yeah.
We get into the pandemic, and then the podcast happens, and I'm surrounded by comedians, and then big shout out to Robert Gibson, Buck D, for my money, and I've said it before, I'll say it again.
I think I follow him on Instagram.
Yeah.
He's just dropped a new special from Revel, right?
Yeah, and I was there for the taping of it.
That's cool, bro.
Okay, let me give a quick shout out to Buck D, dude. Okay,
hey, maybe you can introduce me to him. I'd love to have him on the podcast.
I would love to. He'll probably do. He's super busy right now, but I would put money he'd do it. Okay, so here's the thing with Buck D, right? So I saw him at our local roast battle he was hosting, and I was like, good Christ, who the fuck is this guy? He is hilarious.
Good with crowd work?
Crowd work, written stuff, whatever. So where
do you go to watch stand-up comedy in Albuquerque, just for our fans?
Yeah, so you can find a lot of stand-up, a lot of places, dude.
Like,
so,
what's is there an like, where can people go to events?
There is a website, but it's not updated all that much.
Like, myself included, I would love to get
How about this? Let's save that topic for the end. We can talk about where the marketing and comedy in this city is lacking.
Let's keep it on you for right now.
Yeah. So we'll talk about that. That's a good point. It's a very good point. So, I want to shout out Buck D real quick. So I hit him up after that roast battle last year, I think. Yeah, last year. And I was like, we didn't know each other. He did not know who I was. I just followed him on Instagram. And I was like, hey, man.
So you reached out to him on IG?
Yep. I hit him up. I'm like, hey, man, I saw you at the roast battle. You're fucking hilarious. I run a podcast. I'm on like my 50th episode or something. I'd love to have you on. Let me know.
Put yourself out there, fam.
And he hit me up. And he was like, let's do it. And I was like, oh, my God. And even my girlfriend at the time, she was like, no, he didn't say yes. There's no way he said yes. I was like, you hear my elbow? Fuck.
Oh, dude, that sounded kind of rough.
That's that weightlifting life, son.
That was my table.
Yeah. Anyway, so he comes on. We have a great time. We've been friends since. I've been on his podcast, The BS Show. Shout out, great podcast. And he's become, in both the podcasting sphere and as much as... as much as I'll put my work into it, which lately hasn't been a lot because of podcasting, he's been like a comedic mentor to me.
Right, yeah.
And so flash forward to his stand-up special, right?
Okay, yeah, the one that just came out like a month ago.
So I was there for the taping at Revel, and I had bought it, and I pre-purchased my tickets online because I wanted to make sure I had them, and I want to make sure, and I want to show my support.
Yeah,
Because,
dude, that's the biggest
he's
part,
my
is support the
dog.
community.
And so I told him, I was like, yeah, I got tickets, dude. I'll be there. I can't wait. This is going to be awesome. We might be a little bit late. Like, we might miss the opener, but, like, you know, I was like, yeah, I bought the tickets for the ground seating at Revel. This is going to be, I can't wait, dude. We made it on time. This dude went out of his way, and he fucking reserved I went with my ex, but we...
Shout out to the ex again, yo. She's holding it down. Exes.
Yeah, me and her went, because we're still cordial, you know?
Yeah, dude,
so
of course.
And she's a big fan and all that shit. So we went, and he reserved, like, with a little, like, place card and, like, glasses and everything.
That's
he
cool.
reserved
That's
us a
so cool,
table, and I was like, oh, shit. Like...
So this is before you even stepped foot on the scene?
Yeah, had I done comedy yet? No, I had not done comedy yet. And so what ends up happening...
Do you think he was the one who told you and sparked that?
Here's what happened. So, here's what happens. So, this is in, like, April of this year or so. March or April of this year that he does his
like
special.
right after our podcast, pretty much.
Yeah. So, he starts doing an open mic with another great comic and another great host here in town, Marie Castillo. They start doing an open mic Wednesday afternoon into the evening. It's from like 5 to 7. 5:30 to like 7-ish, 8-ish.
Yeah.
It was a very short-lived open mic, which makes me very sad because it was fun. At Inside Out. And they started hosting that, and I'm going.
Dude, I saw that.
Yeah, so we're going every now.
They stopped doing that?
Yeah, so we're going every week.
Let's bring it back.
And at the end of one of the nights, Buck, he comes up to me and he's like, "You're doing stand-up next week. You're showing up here. You love comedy. We've talked about it. You're showing up here with a pen and a pad. You are doing comedy next week." And I was like, dude, I don't. And they were having these open micers do 3 to 5 minutes. And I was like, I don't have 3 to 5 minutes, dude. I've got maybe 2 jokes. He goes, I don't care if you have 32 seconds.
Get used to it. Get this exercise.
Yeah. He's like, you're getting on stage. She's going to sign you up, his co-host, Marie.
Were you terrified?
Fuck yeah. Oh, my God.
Because it seemed like a lot of people kind of showed up.
When I went up there, it was a crowd of like 20, 25.
That's a lot. Dude, isn't it crazy to think, like, when we watch... I mean, we're going to bring it back, but, like, when you look at the views of the podcast, like, 400 views, like, imagine 400 people right now watching. Like,
Yeah.
doesn't that kind of,
That's what people need to get in their heads. I'll say this real quick about views. Obviously, it matters how many views you have. To say that it doesn't is fucking asinine and stupid. But however, if you want to grow...
But to me, though, 20 people in a room is way more terrifying than 500 people watching our podcast.
So, look... If you are going at any creative endeavor where you have to build a brand, today's world requires you to have views and followers. That is non-negotiable. That is non-whatever. That is how
it's the world we live in. It's the space that the world lives in.
That is the social currency of today. Deal with it, right? Now, to help keep your mental state in check and to help you really start like compartmentalizing things, you're completely right.
Right.
Look, man. If your podcast only gets 40 views, only 50 views, okay, first of all, think about how long you've been doing it, what your strategy is, maybe you can change things, blah, 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 whatever. But also on the bright side of things, right? Try to look at a glass half full.
Right.
Imagine if you had 40 people in your house right now watching this podcast.
Right.
This place would be packed to the brim.
Dude, that's what I'm saying. That's such a cool thing to think about. When you look back at it, like you look back, dude, like at one of your first, like even some of your episodes have like over 1K. Dude, that's 1,000 people that were in that room with you for that experience.
Granted, I have to say, the reel that I just put out for Legion Iron, I do have it as a sponsored ad, but it also is the analytics of what the ad is doing. And right now,
shout out to Hatch Chili.
The amount of views that I have right now for that reel about Legion Iron, I think only like 3 to 5% of the views are from the ad, and it'll click up through the weekend. But
who cares?
But my point is that reel has over 20,000 views.
That's sick.
So that means that 19,000 and some change were from my reach and from Legion Iron's Instagram page, right?
Excuse me.
But that's what it means, right? So that means over 19,000 people. If you had to sit them down that's a coliseum.
Yeah, dude, for sure.
So
I mean, you think of the El Rey filled with
Yeah.
that many people.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
insane.
Anyway.
But dude, what was your first stand-up set like?
So it was at that Inside Out.
He signed you up, Inside
It was
Out.
at Inside Out, and I did 5 minutes. And
Did you bomb?
Oh
Did you...
God, I bombed. I bombed.
Yeah.
I had one joke that did really well.
That's even better to
But
hear for our audience.
Here's
'cause
look. I've been doing comedy for only a couple of months inconsistently. Okay.
how do you practice?
I'll get to that. So I've been doing comedy inconsistently
Look in the mirror.
for a few months. The best thing I have learned from experience, from other comics giving me advice locally, and from Kill Tony, right? Because Tony.
Would you ever do that?
Yes. I'm
You
going
would sign
to.
up for Kill
I'm going
Tony?
to. Like, I want to be on
When
Kill
I think
Tony.
Kill Tony, it gives me the chills because you have to.
I'm moving to Austin.
Oh, you gotta. I know, dude. I've heard about that.
Like, yeah, I'm moving to Austin. Like, that's happening.
Kill Tony is kill or be killed, basically.
But my point is
Let's talk about that for a sec.
the best piece of advice that I've learned so far is whatever set or whatever bit, say you have a bit about something, you can trim it down. For instance,
Cut the fat.
Cut the fat off. Like, for instance, I had a bit about the Little Mermaid.
Right.
The new Little Mermaid that came out. That 2-minute bit is 100% a 30-second bit. For sure. That's not even a question.
Right.
It is a 30-second bit. It's a joke. And basically what the joke that I had is, and I'm not going to do it anymore because it's not topical. Nobody really gives a fuck anymore, right? But my joke about it was they're rebooting everything. They made a Little Mermaid black, thinking about what other Disney properties they're going to reboot and do that to. They're definitely not going to do it to Tarzan.
Yeah, for sure, dude. It's kind of cool, dude, because
Yeah.
I always run bits just with my girlfriend because she kind of thinks she's like what Buck was to you. She's
Yeah.
like, you know, that you should tell that to people, and I'm like, because
Yeah.
you know, dude, you're driving in the car, and I'm like, I give her bits unintentionally. Like I have this like bit, it's like called crackhead camouflage, and I'm like, I just like tell her stories, and she's like, that is funny.
Yeah.
Because like
Well, dude,
I go to gas stations.
There is literally a open mic almost every night in Albuquerque.
Yeah, dude. See, and I don't know about that. And I don't think I would ever do it or whatever. But like, dude, isn't it so funny though? Like how every single gas station you go to, you get approached by at least one drug addict who's begging you for money, and they're always approaching you. You can just see them coming. It's like The Walking Dead. You get out of your car, you know, you see them. You know what they're gonna do? They're gonna come up with some. So I started thinking, I'm like, how do I come up with this technique to not be bothered? And so I'm like, what if I just basically be what they are? So I get out of my car and I just act all like sideways, dude. And I'm like, and they're approaching me and they're like, and then they just leave me alone, dude. And I'm just like, walk by. Yeah, I'm just like, hey, bro. And they're like, oh, hey, bro, you having a good day? And they just leave me alone, dude. And I just like walk back to my car. But I act like super like methed out.
That's funny.
And it just like, they leave me alone, dude.
So yeah.
You guys should try it, our audience. Pretend to be a crackhead, and the crackheads don't bother you.
But yeah, I did my first stand-up bit there, or stand-up set
Inside
there,
Out.
and it's Inside Out, and I was glad to be on the Inside Out stage. Like, that's cool.
Yeah.
I like to be on the Inside Out stage.
Dude, I love
neat.
Inside Out.
That's cool. Bombed hard, and afterwards, he wasn't there for that. He was out of town. But A. Marie, who's also become a friend of mine, she came up to me and she was like, "Hey, that wasn't the best, but like, you have something. Like, there's something there. You are gonna be on my next stand-up show. Figure it out." Oh no, she said, okay. At first she was like, "Hey, I'm doing a set in a month at 377 Brewery. Come do 5 minutes." And I was like, "What?" And she was like, "Just think about it, dude." I was like, "What if I have this or that?" And she was like, "Just think about it." And that night I was like, "Okay, I'll do it." Because I knew that if I said no, I'd regret it.
Do you think that helped so much, like by someone just putting that on you?
Yes.
Like you need
Yes.
someone to be like, "Nope, you're doing
Yes.
this," and you're like, "Okay, I guess
for me, yes." Because
I'm the same way,
even
kinda.
still, I have a real self-confidence problem when it comes to doing new things. So I definitely needed that, right? That like push and that validation from somebody
Right.
she's been doing it for 13 years.
Right.
So I needed that. So I was like, okay, great. Fuck. Oh no, I just agreed to a stand-up show. Fuck. I need to write comedy. How do I write comedy?
377, is that on Gibson?
Yeah, yeah.
Cool.
So then really before I left that night, I was like, okay, I'm gonna do it. Yep, I'm gonna do it. Like, what the fuck? You know, she could tell I was there. She was like, hey, you're doing 5 minutes. You have stage presence. She's like, the one thing you have going for you is stage presence and delivery.
Tell a story. Keep them captivated.
You need to fix your writing, but you have the voice for it. You have your stage presence. You have the body language for it. You're very comfortable up
Timing.
there. I'm sure you were shitting your pants, but you looked comfortable and you looked present and you can exist in silence.
That's a hard thing to do.
Yeah. She was like, you can do well with silence. Now figure out how to write jokes. I'll see you in a month. And I was like,
Damn, dude.
yeah. So then
Kind of a lot of pressure.
So I kept going to that open mic. I didn't keep doing sets there. I was just watching.
Yeah. Sometimes it's good to watch other people on too, to know that you're not the only one.
Yeah. So then I'm like writing jokes, trying to write things out, and I was just freaking the fuck out. I was like, dude, I don't like my written stuff. I don't like my written bits. I don't know what the fuck is going on. I have and the day of, I'm having a real existential crisis. Well, the day before, I'm having a real crisis over it. I'm like, fuck, like I'm gonna bomb so hard. Like this is gonna be shitty. And I have it in my head that if I'm gonna do comedy, the first 5 years of my career is gonna be me bombing in front of people.
Right.
You have to accept that.
Right.
You have to accept that. And that's what bugs me about people shitting on Matt Rife.
Right.
If you shit on Matt Rife, you don't know comedy.
Right.
You don't know the history of comedy because that guy's been doing comedy since he was 16 years old.
Right.
He's now 27, 28 selling out a world tour because he's earned it.
Right. But
He
people don't
has
see that. Like,
earned-
oh, he's just a good-looking kid. He's,
Okay, now the fact he's good looking, the fact he's charismatic,
Dude,
that
use all your
adds
strengths.
to
Go for it.
Yeah, he leans into it completely. He's fit. He talks about how poor his mental health is. He talks about it very openly on
Right,
podcasts. Like he talks about how he's anxiety ridden, on how the death of his father really affected him, and like all these things, and how like working out really helps. So yeah, he's an in shape, fit, good looking kid, right? Who happens to have like 12 years of comedy
Right.
experience. No shit, he's got a world
Right.
tour. You
Perfect
fucking
timing.
morons, right? So anyway, side note about Austin. Friend of mine, Samantha, she lives in Austin now. And she likes stand-up comedy as well.
Yeah.
And she went to the Mothership. She keeps going and she puts on her story. And every time she puts on her story,
She
I'll
got
text-
multiple times?
Yeah. So
My co-host went once. Can't stop rubbing it in my face. Pissed me off.
Yeah, so I'll call her or text her afterwards, and I was like, I texted her the last time she went, and I was like, how was it? How was the Mothership? And she goes, oh yeah, Matt Rife popped in for the first time, and I wanted to like reach through my phone and strangle her. I was so jealous. But yeah, anyway. So the day before, I'm having a fucking crisis, and I texted Buck, and I was like, dude, how do you do this? Like, give me some advice. Like, what do I need to know? Like, I'm trying to write my bits out. I'm trying to memorize them, and how do you write? And he goes, I don't write. What the fuck you mean you don't write? He goes, no, I have a premise, and I have ideas, and I have like bullet points at the most, but I just go out on stage and I work on it.
Dude,
I work it out on stage.
And I think that's where some of your podcasting skills might come into place, because you can always have a plan, you can always have this, but it's going to go where it's going to go.
Exactly. And there's a lot of comedians that do that, right? So then the day of, I literally took the day off of work to prepare for this 5-minute stand-up show because I was so fucking nervous. I knew I couldn't sit at work and focus because I was so nervous, right? So I take the day off of work and I'm like, okay, I need to I had chores and errands I've been putting off, but so I do it myself. I go to the gym, I get a good workout in, I get home, I
Get
eat.
it out, get that angst out.
Yeah, and then I'm like, fuck, okay, you have 4 hours before the stand-up show. Get it together. Like, get your shit. There's literally a neon sign in the Mothership, and it says, get it together, bitch. And I'm like throwing that in my head on loop, like, get it together.
Do you listen to music before at all, or are you just in pure?
No.
You don't get hyped up, nothing?
No. So what I did is...
Say a prayer?
There's a lot of praying involved.
Dear God, please help me be inappropriately funny.
So then what I did, I reread that message from Buck, and I was like, I think I'm taking this too seriously. I need to okay, what are the bits? I'm confident in my bits. Because it went from having one long story that was 5 minutes down to having multiple things. And it went through this whole spectrum of what my stand-up set was going to be. And I narrowed it down to 3 bits. And I was like, okay, dude, you know what your points are. You've gone through it word by word. What is funny about this? Be objective about your material.
Own it.
What is funny? Okay, now... act like and I thought to myself, dude, you've never been good at giving speeches that are written out. You've never been good at, I'm good at writing papers.
But don't make it your main focus.
I've been good at, in school, I was good at writing papers. I was good at dissecting things. at an analytical level, but not at a comedic level.
Right,
but
right.
I was like, I thought, what are you good at? Okay, you've had a podcast for this long. People are still listening. People are still coming through. That means you're good at that. That's off the cuff. Okay. And then I thought to myself, this is very strange, but I promise it has a point. You've given 2 best man speeches, and you've had family members coming up to you crying about how good it was.
And it just came from the heart.
And that came from the heart, exactly. Off the top of your head, it had enough emotion, and I did it for my uncle, and I did it for my best friend, one of my best friends, Dom, right? So I was like, okay, you're good at off the cuff. You're good enough. Just say your set off the cuff, and just time it. Don't record it. Don't write it down. Say what you think is funny. Your friends...
You have to live in the moment.
Yeah, I was like, your friends think you're funny enough, so just, even if they're lying to you, act like they're not. And just lean into it.
Own it.
Yeah, what does this look like?
People can sense that fear in you.
Yeah.
If you have that fear, they feed off of it.
And that's another thing, good point. That's something that Buck told me. He goes, the number one thing you need on stage is confidence.
Yes.
Even because if you're confident in the shit you're bombing in, at least it'll
own
be
it.
But for the audience, at least it won't be as uncomfortable as it would have been that you have shitty writing with no confidence.
You don't want to say something go
Yeah, have shitty writing with every confident thing in your body, then having shitty writing with no confidence. That's a
Or
real
good writing with no
bomb.
confidence.
Exactly. Yes. That is. I went to a stand-up show last night. I
want to go to these.
At Elvado. It was a free show they have every Thursday.
I would love to go to these.
Every Thursday at Elvado.
I've only been to 2 stand-up shows ever. I went to Gotham Comedy in New York, and then I saw Theo Vaughn here in Albuquerque. Those are the only 2 I've ever been to.
So every Thursday night at Elvado, they hold a mic there, and it's an actual show. It's a free show, but it's a show with some local comedians. And
Elvado?
Elvado. Yeah, it's a little... It's kind of a brewery.
Is there alcohol there?
It's a weird like mishmash of things, but it's down...
Shout out to Elvado.
Yeah, it's down by the Botanical Gardens in the zoo.
Okay, I got you.
But anyway.
You've been going...
And and I saw people there giving out material that was really good. Part of it was delivered improperly, and then part of it was like the confidence wasn't there and that kind of stuff. Anyway. So I looked at my stuff and I wrote it out in bullet points. I was like, okay, you know your punchlines and you know the tags that are funny. Just say it. And so what I did is I got these headphones that I have, these Bose wireless headphones, and I turned them on and I linked it to my phone, but they have noise canceling on.
So you listen to it?
No,
give your set and then re-listen to it?
Not at all. It has noise canceling, so I linked it to my phone. And I pressed the noise canceling so that it canceled out anything coming into my ear. So I was muffled. Like I could hear my voice, but it was muffled. So I could just focus on the flow of it, not what I'm actually saying. The flow of it. Get it.
Timing.
And I was like, get it out of your fucking system. So I did that, and I just like, okay, I know what's funny. Make it funny. And I just said that like 10 times over and over in my room. I went to my bit my set about 10 times in my room, just going through it. What's funny? What's the flow of it? That kind of thing. And
Wait, hold up, time out.
Yeah.
I need to take a piss real quick.
Yeah, you're good.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're good. Okay.
Sorry, brother.
So yeah, you're good. So I went through it 10 times, and I was like, all right, you're about as confident as it's gonna get. Let's get to the fucking venue. So I go to the venue. And if I were to grade my set, I'd say it's a C+. That first one. I'd say it's a C+ into a B-.
Did you go with confidence?
Yeah, as much as I could. And it was funny because...
I like the implosion one. I saw that one.
Because it's funny, dude. That just shows you how nervous I was. Because I forgot to hit record. But thankfully, the person I was with hit record on it. And they got the last part of my bit. And I started that bit saying, you know, I really didn't mean, I wasn't thinking of doing the submarine stuff. Mm-hmm. I really wasn't thinking of doing it because that was like a half-baked bit, and it was some of the best that I did. My first bit was about...
Little Mermaid?
No, my first bit was about Apple Watches. You know, you can like record exercises and stuff. Basically, it was about me having sex with my ex-girlfriend. It didn't happen. It's not a real story, but it's me and my ex-girlfriend having sex, and... She accidentally
Shout out to the ex.
She accidentally had her Apple Watch on, and
they're like, congratulations.
And it recorded a exercise and it sent it to her mom. So that was a joke, right?
Yep.
And then the second joke was some joke about drinking. It was stupid. I'm never gonna do that one again. And then the third one was about the submarine. And I got some laughs. I got some, you know, good stuff out of it, and that was pretty good.
How do you feel after? Is it compare it to like a podcast? Because I know like I have guests on the podcast.
Completely different feeling.
And when I don't know, sometimes after we do a podcast, dude, I've had people like straight up just hug me, and they're like, "Dude, that was
so."
Would never.
After I get done with like a really great, like exceptional episode, I feel reassured. I'm like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is why I keep doing it. That was really great.
Would you compare it to therapy? Like in your own way? Would you ever do therapy? Because, dude, I don't know.
I've done therapy.
My girlfriend has recommended therapy to me and stuff. I'm like, you know how we grew up. We grew up in different times.
Yeah,
we just but I like, in my own defense, I feel like podcasts are kind of like my own therapy. Yes. Sometimes I'll get stuff out and I'm just like.
So in the interest of time, we can get that if you ever want to have me back, we'll do a second episode about.
Dude, we're gonna keep this rolling, dude. Whether you're in Austin, we're gonna find a way. I feel like we have this bond, bro. We got the Coronas hashtag for family.
In the interest of time, I'll just answer that really short and say kinda.
Yeah.
But after a good podcast, I feel reassured. I'm like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm doing the right thing for myself. That person really enjoyed it. Okay, this is awesome.
You have a lot of guests on that you don't know when you meet the day of, and I respect that. I'm still in the realm of I'm getting all of my people on that I find most interesting because I want to enjoy the conversation just as much.
Yeah.
Where eventually I'm going to run out of that realm. You know, I'm on episode 62, whatever this is. And, you know, obviously you're a friend of mine. We've talked for several hours previously before this.
But we didn't know each other before we did the podcast.
We didn't know each other before the podcast. We ran it. I showed up. See, that was the thing. That was crazy. I just showed up at your spot, at your studio, sat down,
Just ran it, yeah.
See, me, I like to cut through. I like to get over all of the small talk for at least like an hour, half hour before, just to save it for the fans. Like, that's hey, fair. What do you do for work? You know what I mean? Like, fair. It's like, you know,
that's fair.
All the small talk.
Yeah, different stuff for different folks, for sure.
But, dude, like, I had a great time on your podcast. Shout out to OnlyKings podcast.
Thank you.
Catch them on YouTube. What else are you on? Spotify? Everything?
We'll get to that at the end, but yeah, everything. But
look
anyway,
up OnlyKing. I'm going to tag you.
At the end of a stand-up set, dude, like, getting off the stage and knowing that I made people laugh and they actually enjoyed watching me do stand-up, that was a brand new feeling that I've never had before. That was, I don't know, I've never done heroin. I've never done any hard drug like that before, but I would imagine that's what that's like. The euphoria, the euphoria that you get from getting laughs on, and I got like, out of 10, I think I only got like a 4 out of 10, a 5 out of 10. But what I got off that stage and when I was telling, it's like they're laughing at my jokes. They are laughing at me.
They're locked in.
Yeah, they're laughing about me talking shit. And they're not laughing at me.
Right.
They're laughing together.
With you.
They're laughing together.
They're like, oh my God, that's so...
Yeah, they're having that experience. And what's so cool... I don't know if it's a good or a bad thing yet. I'm still working that out. But when I got up and I do sets, whether I'm bombing, I've definitely bombed at a bunch of mics and all that stuff. And I bombed at
How many sets have you done?
And my show after that, I bombed hard. I've done like 5 or 6.
Cool.
But, you know, after that, you know, while I was up there doing the actual set, there was like this weird barrier that I felt between me and the crowd where I didn't really give a fuck. Didn't really care.
What do you, so when you're doing a set, do you look at anyone specifically or are you just talking to them?
I actually have to remind myself to look at people. I have to remind myself that you're talking to a crowd right now. You are telling jokes to a crowd, interact with them with
That's
your
where
eyes,
I get nervous.
with your body language, look at them.
Dude, even with my intro, I'm like, hey, like, look, I don't know what to look at. I'm like, what are we doing?
Well, it's a way different thing. And you have to look at them. You have to interact with them with your body language. You have to be in the moment more than just for yourself.
Right. I'm with you.
Exactly. So it's a new kind of euphoria that I've never felt before, and I want to experience it again. Now, my second set a month later, 377, did not go as well. I made it a point to not do the same jokes. I made it a point to write new stuff, and it didn't go as well. I should have practiced that more, and I really should have honed in on that more. I should have went to more mics and all that kind of stuff. But what was cool about that first set, is I had to follow one of the best comedians in the fucking state. His stage name is Black Mike. His real name is Mike Ogden. This guy's been doing comedy for over 10 years. Phenomenal comic. Hilarious. Free, loose, hilarious guy.
Doesn't even have to think about it. Shows up.
I had to follow him. Because when I got told the lineup, it was him, me, and then Steph Darnell. And Steph Darnell, he's been doing comedy for like 15 years.
So you're just right in the middle of these two.
He is in the top 4 comics in the state. And he is hilarious too. So I was shitting my fucking pants. I was like, for all intents and purposes, before that, I'd done one open mic and bombed. So I've never done comedy. I have to now be sandwiched in between these two monsters. Fuck. After the show, they were so supportive. They were so nice to me. Great guys. I still see them around at different mics.
That's cool.
Nice guys. Mike Ogden, especially, he came up to me, he was like, dude, obviously you know what you need to work on, but you're good. And he was like, you're on my fucking list.
That's sick.
He's
dude.
like, I've got a list of comics in the state.
Dude,
that I look at, and I'm like, I need to write better because this guy's out there doing stand-up comedy. You're one of them now.
Dude, that friendly competitiveness is
it's
a
good.
thrill.
And then Steph, he came up to me and he was like, keep doing it.
Dude, that's sick. Dude. You're in that circle.
He had to leave, but he was real quick with me. He was like, dude, you're good.
Keep going.
You know
keep working on it.
You need to work on.
Build on it.
But keep doing it. Keep at it. You have something.
That's cool, bro. That's so cool that the community has been supportive and it's not like a dog-eat-dog type.
Well, and I don't want to speak out of place, but I've heard some things, third hand here and there, where I hear about how some comics treat each other and how good there's cliques of these comics. And quite frankly, I don't give a fuck that much because, now I'm getting to the point, I look at my schedule for the podcast where it's slowing down a little bit more. I'm only doing 2 podcasts a week. So that leaves me open more to write more. That leaves me open to go to more mics and do more open mics and work my stuff out. And I'm gonna start going to more mics, and before we get out of here, I can definitely say what open mics are around the city. I have a list of them, and it's something I'm gonna keep doing.
Okay,
it's something that I'm gonna keep at and continue to do because I love it. I genuinely love being on stage.
That's cool, man.
I don't really like writing, but it's something that I have to do. But the execution of it is just so damn fun. Case in point, I went and did an open mic at Red Door. They do an open mic every Wednesday at 8 p.m.
I didn't know that.
The guy who runs it...
Did you guys hear that?
The guy who runs it, Chuck Parker, very nice guy. Very friendly. I had him on the podcast one time. Very, very nice guy. Every comic that went up on that mic, except for Trip Stilnicki, that's his name. Very funny comic as well. He's been doing it for like 8
Trip Stilnicki?
He's been doing it for like 8 or 9 years. Very funny guy. Everybody, even Steph went up there trying new stuff, and he didn't do that great that night. Everyone who went up there, including me, bombed hard. So we all bombed together. And at that point, it's like, okay, it's a shared pain. But at the same time, you look at who's in the crowd, and it's a bunch of other comics.
Well, you guys are working out.
Yeah.
You guys are working out.
Yeah.
It's like a gym. It's like you're getting your reps in.
Exactly.
You rewatch it. You're recording yourself.
Yeah. And what's nice is the audience for that open mic, they were all either comics or boyfriend and girlfriend of the comics. So it was
that whole clique that was there, obviously.
It was a friendly environment for it. And
I would love to go to that. My girlfriend loved Gotham City comedy.
It was a good time,
dude. It was so crazy walking through there, seeing all of the because they keep pictures of everyone who's ever performed there.
You went to Gotham City comedy.
See Pryor, you see everyone.
So for people, I'm gonna dork out a little bit about comedy. For everyone listening right now that doesn't know what the fuck he's been saying about Gotham City comedy in New York, that is one of the biggest comedy circuits out there. And you're right, in those comedy clubs, you will feel the legacy. That's
what I felt. There's a presence. When you walk in this room, there you just see it captivates you, and you're like, whoa.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the... Well, I don't think. I know. That is one of the things that is going to keep me interested and keep me wanting to do stand-up is the history. I respect the living shit out of the history of stand-up comedy because the people that have done it, like, people don't really understand how important stand-up comedy was between the 60s and the 80s. People don't really get it. Like, especially out of the comedy store.
Prior?
Right, especially out of the comedy store. Like, that is where your favorite comics and the groundwork of stand-up in America really started. That was Richard Pryor, Sam Kinison, Steve Martin, Jim Carrey, all of these, Michael Keaton, all of these fucking monsters that used to be, that were stand-up comics, whether they went on to be comedic actors or they stayed as stand-up comics, they all started at the comedy store, and it was all in that time period, right?
And they were all part of this clique, like how you were just describing here in New Mexico. Everyone got their workouts. Everyone did their...
So I'll end the comedy stuff here. So for anyone who's listening...
We're at about 10%. So
who's interested in open mics here. So on Mondays at Lizard Tail Brewery, every Monday they do a stand-up...
What time?
They do an open mic there at 7 p.m. Tuesdays at the Slice Parlor on Nob Hill, 7 p.m. Wednesdays at Revel... there's no more open mics at Revel, just kidding. The Wednesday open mic is at Red Door Brewery at 8 p.m. I think they still do it at Chili Lime Brewery in Santa Fe, but I'm not sure. Thursdays, I know they do this still, and this is actually supported by Dry Heat Comedy Club that's downtown.
Cool.
So Echoes Brewery, they do an open mic at 5.
All the breweries, I love it.
Yeah, the breweries really show out. So the Echoes Brewery at 5 p.m., they do an open mic there, and then they also do, I'd imagine they're going to stop in the wintertime because El Vado's is an outdoor venue, but they do comedy there at 7:30 every Thursday.
Dude, there's a lot going on.
Yeah, and then Friday night at Echoes again at 5 p.m.
Let's go.
So there's a lot.
Let's go.
There's a lot.
I know a lot of our audience loves that. I mean,
yeah.
I don't really know what to label our podcast, but a lot of it we do have like a good time, and I would consider it comedy.
Well, you got to think about
somewhat.
like comedy and podcasting have a very close relationship.
Yeah.
Due in no small part of Joe Rogan.
Right.
So I'll close it by saying there's a lot of comedy here in Albuquerque, and there's a lot of good comedy. It's growing, it's getting quicker, and Albuquerque and in like March, allegedly, at some point next year, I'm not going to say a date, but at some point next year, we are getting Hyenas Comedy Club in, and they're going to put their comedy, and they're a big comedy club franchise. Hyenas is building a location in Winrock. So, like, comedy...
That whole new thing that they're...
So, comedy's going to grow. This is the perfect time, whether you're a stand-up fan...
Dude, I don't know, man. You still thinking going to Austin? I mean, it seems like there's a little burst that's coming here. You can bounce back and forth or what?
Who knows? Honestly,
I don't want to like. I'm not trying to tell you.
Who knows? I thought about it too, but all I know is that my goal is still February of 2025. I'll be in Austin, or at least moving to Austin, and whatever I do. Well, all I know is that between now and then, I'm going to be working on the podcast, working on my stand-up, because I've decided that I want to live my life as long as I can maintain a good job, which I do have right now, thankfully. I want to be a professional shit talker, and that is what I'm gonna do. You
know, Noah, I will tell you, dude, you've been an amazing guest. Our audience, you know, I can already tell they're gonna love you and what you're doing. And I think what you brought to this new audience, all these views that we're gonna get, whether it's 4 views or 100 views, 300, what we talked about today and stuff was cool because we get to know the real you and what interests you. Yeah. And it's more than just surface level. It's, you know, this podcast is about who you are as a person. I like to bring light of like who you are on the inside, what interests people, what excites you, you know, what inspires other people. We have such a vast audience of young adults in middle school.
That's awesome.
And I have like parents watching this.
All your wrestling kids, right?
All the wrestling kids. We got all the parents. That's awesome. We got, you know, all college friends. There's it's so wide of what this audience that we're reaching. And I just want to say, man, thank you for being a guest on the show.
Thanks for having me.
I would love to have you back. I hope you enjoyed the new studio. it's kind of hot in here.
No, dude, okay.
We're running it.
Dude, I started my podcast in my fucking garage, and in the winters it was freezing, and in the summer it was hot.
Yeah.
So it was a blast, absolute blast being here.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me. I love the new setup. It looks great. Again, it looks great on camera. It's very well lived in. Keep going. Keep going with the podcast.
I'm not leaving.
you have something here. Keep working at it. Keep going. It's only up, dude.
And if you guys have made it this far, I would appreciate it if you guys just hit subscribe, like. That means more to me than you guys would even realize. Costs zero money. And, if we could one day get monetized, keep growing, why not?
It sounds corny as shit,
everyone's like, hey, are you going to make money on the pod? I'm like, dude, just to put my voice out there and, like, have people know who I am on the inside is more than money.
It's funny.
We got our own jobs. We're grown adults. But to do this on the side is so much more rewarding than anything.
Oh, yeah. It sounds corny, when you hear YouTubers say, like, subscribe, comment. But, like, it actually helps.
Yeah, it's fun to just hear feedback. Like, I love when people comment and they're like, dude, I can't believe you talked about that thing. I remember when you got arrested. That was crazy. You know what I mean? Like, there's all these cool things, and I just love that. Like, you guys are family, and Noah, you're family to the ATG audience. We love you, man.
Thank you.
I hope OnlyKings keeps growing. I would love to be a guest again.
Yeah, dude.
Maybe we'll go watch the new Exorcist together, and we'll have a little post podcast about what we think about it.
Yeah, man. Well, again, thank you for having me. This, like I said, this is a lot of fun. If you've made it this far and you want to hear myself talk a little bit more, the podcast is on the video format is on YouTube 100%. It's on YouTube. Audio is Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts. We're on Instagram, Facebook, OnlyKings Podcast. My personal page, if you just look me up on Facebook or Instagram, Noah Vargas, you'll find me. I'm pretty sure I'm the first one that's going to pop up, one of the first at least. And then I don't know, like, do you know when this is going to come out?
Probably by Sunday.
Oh, shit. Okay, awesome. So, provided you guys are watching it, like, Monday the 25th-ish, I'm not officially affiliated with the gym. Like, I'm not one of their members, or I'm not one of their staff. I'm just one of their members that loves the place. Legion Iron, their grand reopening is upcoming, is this upcoming Sunday. It's going to be... So, Legion Iron is off of the freeway next to Cole. It is going to be Sunday the 30th at 1 p.m. Come swing through. You don't have to buy a membership. You don't have to, like, spend any money. They're going to have caterers. They're going to have a car show. We're going to have a deadlift competition.
Dude, I'm in.
It's going to be fucking badass. Come through to Legion Iron. Show some love. Show some support to the local gym. And it's revamped. But it's still the Legion Iron that the old school people know. And it's got a lot of new stuff. It's going to be a fucking blast. I've got
Sunday?
Yes.
Hey, and also, I'm going to do a real quick plug.
Yeah.
So tomorrow, I don't know, this podcast probably won't come out tomorrow. If it does come out on Sunday, this is a recap. Saturday, tomorrow, Ito's Barbershop's throwing a hangout, and it's basically just a way to network. There's so many different vendors that show up. We got Own the Day showing Own the Day showing up.
Shout out
we got
Frankie.
my friend Danny Jaramillo. He's been practicing on the turntables. He's going to be doing live sets the whole day.
Cool.
Everyone's going to be selling merch. Probably going to be beer pong. It's going to just be a fun hang. It's just a way of networking.
I might come through and say hi to Frankie.
You should show up. Honestly, it's a really good hang. Hit me up when you go, and we'll go at the same time. We'll have a blast, bro.
Hell yeah. Is there anything else I need to plug? Yeah. The Legion Iron opening is going to be sick. New episode of the podcast about Legion Iron is going to drop on Tuesday.
Let's go.
Tuesday the 26th. It's a good episode with the new owner. A few new people that are going to be there. It's going to be a blast, man. So, yeah.
Guys, we got some momentum going. Help us out.
Yes. Seriously.
We love this momentum. We appreciate every single one of you. If you guys want to be on the podcast, reach out to us. Hit us up. This $500,000 studio is a lot to pay for. So if you guys... No, I'm just kidding. No, guys, I love you. Episode 62. I don't even know what we're on. I love you guys. Let's go.